Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Thursday morning. Round one of the NBA draft in the books. Round two coming up at 2 o'clock today. The Jazz draft a couple of guys out of the Pac-12. Cody Williams from Colorado with the 10th pick and Isaiah Collier from USC with the 29th pick. Collier, a little bit of a flyer here. I mean, he was a highly thought of recruit, depending on which recruiting service you believe, but top five guy. I mean, he was very well thought of. Had a big debut, then had an injury. His team wasn't good. It didn't quite pan out, and other guys zoomed by him, and he plummets down to the 29th spot. But, as David Locke likes to say, college basketball isn't always a great indicator of what you're going to do as a pro. It's a different game. Can it change? And obviously all these guys are young, so how much can they just improve and grow? Here's Isaiah Collier at his press conference after the Jazz drafted him.
Isaiah, I'm Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune. Just first of all, congratulations. Second of all, were you surprised to be still around at number 29? And what was your first reaction when you learned that you were drafted by the Jazz?
I mean, of course, I was surprised a little bit just being, around at 29. But, I mean, for me, I still feel like, I'm one of the best players in this draft. But for me, it's just grateful for the opportunity, that Utah drafted me. I'm just looking forward to just getting to work and, bringing that winning mentality. And I'm just looking forward to, just competing every day.
Hey, Isaiah, I'm Ryan Miller from KSL.com. I know you didn't come in here for a workout, but did you have much contact with the Jazz leading up to this?
Yeah, I mean, I got to talk to them in Chicago at the Combine, and my agent, communicating back and forth. So, yep.
Isaiah, Tony Jones from The Athletic. What are some of the things that you feel like you want to kind of shore up and refine with your game between now and Summer League and between Summer League, in training camp?
I mean, I just want to sum up that, I'm one of the best players in the draft. For me, it's just, competing from day one, pushing my teammates and just making everybody, better around me and just being that good person on and off the court.
Isaiah, John Kuhn from the Associated Press. When you look at what the Jazz have on their roster and the style of play that they played last year, how do you feel like your skill set fits into what this organization's doing?
I mean, I feel like, I'm ready, for the situation, whatever's thrown at me. And, just got to spend time with Keontae a little bit this summer. I mean, that was great for sure, just being around him, seeing him get better every single day, and just seeing the young core, that, Utah has. So I'm just looking forward to, gelling with the guys and getting better.
You mentioned working out with Keontae. What is your relationship like with him?
I knew him a little bit before, it's like high school days. So, I mean, real cool with Keontae. Got to spend a lot of time with him this summer, him being out in LA training. But, I mean, great dude. He's going to be, a really good player in this league. And I'm just looking forward to, just learning from everybody.
Isaiah, do you know anything about Salt Lake City or Utah, or have you been here before?
No, I never been to Utah, but I mean, I'm looking forward to it for sure. I mean, I know it's kind of cold out there. I'm going to have to, get a coat or whatever, but I mean, it's cool.
There's a new Jazz man, Isaiah Collier, the 29th pick in the draft. Cody Williams, the 10th pick in the draft, coming up later this hour, along with Justin Zanik, Jazz general manager. We're going to take a break, though. When we come back, Utah Hockey Club GM Bill Armstrong on the draft and the summer, and where does the club go from here? That is next. Good morning, DJ and PK, proudly presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 18 years in a row. Utah Hockey Club general manager, Bill Armstrong, holding a press conference earlier this week as they prepare for the draft. There'll be another big draft party tomorrow night at the Delta Center, and we'll find out what they do with the 6th pick in the draft. Here's Bill Armstrong, general manager of the Utah Hockey Club, with the media.
Hey, Bill, thanks for taking the time to do this for us today. After you've had the chance to, really dive into this draft class, what would you say is the strength of this class, and how do you feel the team is positioned with your 13 picks, especially number 6 overall?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think there's been a lot of changes at the end of the season. Guys coming on strong, and a really good mix up top. I think it's probably an interesting draft in the sense that, there's a lot of different, there's basically, anywhere from 10 to 12 guys that have the chance to go after, the number one pick comes off the board. So it's wide open. I think there's going to be some surprises that happen, and that due to some of the players just playing so well at the end of the year. And it's exciting times when you get down to it. How we're positioned, I mean, we got a lot of picks. This is, if you're a scout, this is where you want to be. You're picking high and often. So it's a really good position to be in. This is the way that we designed it and built it. We're an organization that will have a chance to win a championship, but only through the draft. I mean, that's a big part of what we're doing. The high end players, your number one centers, your number one D-men's, your number one goaltenders are very rarely kind of traded for, and in some senses they're usually built through the draft, and that's what we've tried to do.
Let's go to Andy Larson with the Salt Lake Tribune.
Hey, Bill, I wanted to ask about the
Recording
addition
in progress.
Of Chris Armstrong to your guys' team, and in particular, kind of what he brings to the organization and how your guys' roles interact and differ.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a great ad. He's been there from the get-go, and someone I've talked to throughout the process, and just someone that has a tremendous amount of knowledge. That's been an agent. He's been in the field. He has a general understanding of everything, how it works behind the scenes, and it's just been great to work with him. I've really enjoyed my time. A small piece of time. It seems like it's been about 2 years, but it's actually only been about 2 months. So it's been a whirlwind, but it's been a great fit. And, he brings some expertise from the agency field, and he's got some great thoughts about how to improve the organization. And it's been a pleasure to work with him.
Let's go to Ryan Miller with KSL Sports.
Hey, Bill. I'm just more curious, how are things different leading up into this draft with being in Utah than it has been in previous times, in Arizona?
It's a great question. It's relatively the same on our side in the sense of, just how we prepare the process. That's the same. I think the excitement is that you're really ushering in a new era, and you can just see how excited people are in Utah about what's going on and who are we going to get, and it's just exciting for our staff. They're walking in there today, and there's all new swag waiting for them, and they've got everything. The new colors and everything. So there's a lot of excitement around our organization, about the new and about where we're going. And it starts at the draft. That's the first kickoff where we walk in there with the Utah colors and go to work. So there's a tremendous amount of excitement around just having the first draft and representing Utah. It's going to be a great day.
Let's go to Dana Green with ABC4 Utah.
Hey, Bill, for fans that are just still getting to know this team, what would you say the biggest needs are coming into this draft? Not even just draft, but free agency as well. Yeah. And then historically, the number 6 overall pick, what do you expect out of that guy? Is that a guy that can contribute right away, or do you expect to develop a player at that position?
A little bit of both, to be honest. It's a good question. Sometimes you can walk away with somebody that high and they can jump right into your lineup and play. But we're at the point right now where we really want to develop our players. Not to say that they won't have an opportunity to come in and make our team in camp, but for the most part, what you're seeing there is going to be an impact player at some point in time in their career, but it takes them a little bit of time and development to go through. And that's part of our process that we've tried to usher into our organization with so many young guys. And you could see it, with, it started with Gunther going in the must. Actually started with Moser being in the minors. Then it started with Gunther. And then, you see the Josh Jones of the world coming through. And I'm a firm believer that, they play huge minutes down there. They're in a great development role down there. And when they come up, they end up fighting harder. They realize, they learn a lot of lessons at the American League level. And then they come up and play in the NHL. And I think it always stays in the back of their mind of what they've learned. So if we do it right, the majority of our draft picks will go through the minors and come up. And that way, when they come up, they'll be extra ready, and that's important to us. And not to say that the 6th overall pick can't play in the National Hockey League for us, but it's highly unlikely next year.
And then can you just address the needs of the team?
Yeah, I mean, we need in free agency mostly just some defensemen, a few other pieces and some depth in the minors for our club, but it's mostly defense. We need to add a few defensemen to kind of shore up our team and take the next step.
Let's go to Jeff Rainier with Fox 13 Utah.
Yeah, Bill, did you do all your workouts in Arizona? And from your workouts, did you like the talent that you saw? Do you feel like this is a very talented class?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different on this side with the hockey is, you go through the combine and that combine's usually your top 3 rounds and it's out of Buffalo and there's no on ice testing. So it's all off ice and you get to interview the kids and then anybody not invited, you can bring them on the ice. And we did that out of Arizona because we were set up to test them on the ice. So, and that was an exciting, we had over, I think we had 12 kids come in, and that kind of shores up our pretty much from the 4th round to the 7th round. And it's nice to have that information on them. So those workouts are important for us. We do like the talent there and the backgrounds. There's some kids we really get excited about. And I think when you're on a staff, we've got a pretty talented scouting staff and a whole bunch of picks. So it's an exciting time for us to kind of swing for the fences and see what we can do from the back of in the backgrounds with some extra picks too.
Aaron Schill with the Deseret News.
Hi, Bill. How much have you seen the draft change over the years in terms of process, but also presentation? It looks like it's going to be quite a show this year.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, it's a huge venue this year, and to be able to kind of go up there, and it's everybody's looking forward to it. Just the excitement and how it's going to be presented. I think it's a great thing for the league. It's a great thing for the players, and it surely gets you excited about the draft. For us, I mean, over the years, I think there's more information that comes in. I think the drafts got tighter. Back in the day, 20 years ago, you'd go see a guy and, maybe see him twice and, draft him in the 7th round. And now, through analytics, through video, and just the amount of extra camps there are, you just get a ton more information. So I think with more information, I think teams draft better and it's harder, but you've got to continue to push that pace and create a better process every single year. And I think with the new analytics, and I think the more knowledge we have, the better we become at it. So it certainly has changed in the sense that there's a way more information than you've ever had before.
Go to John Walrow with the Associated Press.
Hey, Bill, thanks for doing this. With the number 6 pick and looking at how this draft might unfold, what impact do you think the Russian players, Silyev and Demidov, might have in maybe affecting the draft order? And what is generally your views on drafting Russian players? Because sometimes it's tough to get them over.
Yeah. Well, normally, to answer that last question, if they're a really good Russian player, I think about 100% of the time they end up in the NHL. So they'll find their way eventually over. I think it would be interesting. It depends on the team that's drafting at the particular position at that time, whether they'll make the call and draft a Russian player. Some teams won't. Some teams do. They have different views on it. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of players that have been targeted into that area, and you can't tell from where we sit who's going. I think the way that we prepare is prepare for the best day and prepare for the worst day, and let's get down to the draft table. But there could be some Russian players that get inserted before us and are taken. There might not. It's a guessing game right now, and I think you see that with a lot of the mock lists that come out and the talk from the NHL teams. I think there's a lot of different ways the draft could go.
And just one other question, and it's just everybody's dealing with this quick turnaround. I mean, you've been waiting around for quite a while since you've been off the ice, but Utah has had the added thing of transitioning from Arizona. What has this offseason been like, and what do you make of the turnaround as you're going from drafting to free agency in almost a matter of 2 nights sleep?
Yeah, it turns quick for us, extremely quick. We've tried to, because we are a team that is, in the rebuild, we're not worried, we didn't deal with playoffs. So we're probably prepared for this, not for the sleep factor, but for what's coming our way. As far as the transition, it's been a great transition with Ryan Smith, and the SEG group has been tremendous. They get things done. So anything that we needed, whether it's computers or different emails, you name it, they've done a great job of making sure the transition's been extremely smooth. And we're excited about, after the draft ends, we're going right into Park City to have our development camp, and that's kind of our first time we're putting the skates on the ice in Utah, and we're playing a 4-on-4, 3-on-3 game out of the Delta Center, and it's going to be great. It's going to showcase all our prospects from this year's draft and past drafts. It's going to be great, and because of the fact that we've drafted so many kids in the last few years with high picks, that's an exciting time for the organization. You're going to see Simashev and Boot and all those guys on the ice, and all the talent that's coming on display. So we're really excited about the transition and excited about getting through the draft and through the free agency into development camp. It's going to be exciting times for us.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
John Matisse with The Score.
Hey, Bill. Curious about your thoughts on Z Bouillon, might be around at 6, what your kind of scouting report is on him. And then as sort of a side question, and maybe more generally about kids that have a lot of success, team success in their draft year, how you sort of weigh that in terms of, it's obviously a positive, but hey, maybe they were on a good team, you don't want to give them too much credit because Bouillon obviously won everything, everything he could win. So I'm curious how you sort of, you factor that into things.
Well, number one, he's a great player. The one thing we always look for is, things that we can attach to winning, like what have they done in the past? And, for him, he's put a World Junior up in a national championship and driven both teams. So, he's someone obviously in the mix at that point, and he showed his ability, to win, which we love. That goes back to kind of our 5 points of character and playing big in the big moments. And, when you see that in the players you want to take it, that you're trying to draft, it gives you that surefire, goodness feeling in your belly. And I'll tell you this, I have a saying that I say to our scouts, and, after we watch the 7th game, I say 7th game is won at the draft table. It's you already know beforehand who the character that's in them, and their ability to play big in the big moments and the pressure situations. And at some point in time, I always say you don't teach a baby shark to bite. They know how to bite, but usually you'll see them bite at some point in time. And we want to see our kids, have a little attachment to the winning. They've got to do something in the big moments. And when you can see that out of them, you get a nice feeling in your gut that when you're playing the 7th game, they're going to respond and play big in the big moments.
Nick Kotsanika with NHL.com.
Hey, Bill, I had 2 questions, if you don't mind. The first one, I remember when the NHL returned to Winnipeg, what a huge moment that was at the draft. Just kind of wonder what this moment's going to be like, and specifically just for facts, do you have the jerseys ready to go? Will it be the black one? Going to put on the prospect, Well,
I can't put the color, attached to that yet, but you'll have to wait to see on draft day. But it's the colors are done, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting for everyone, and people in Utah. It's funny, we've been in and out of Utah there, and for meetings and getting the transition set up, and you're in. People be waving to me on the street. I'll be like, it's kind of weird because they know who you are. And when you're in Arizona, you went undetected. Now you're in Salt Lake, and they know who you are. And your Uber driver picking you up knows who you are. It's like they're tuned in. This is a big thing. This is a big thing in the state of Utah and in Salt Lake, and you can feel that. And so for us to go up on stage with the new colors and all that, it's going to be exciting. But it's really exciting point for us.
The second question I had, and I don't know if you want to give away strategy, but how aggressive can you be in free agency, or how aggressive do you expect to be?
Well, listen, it's a good question, because we have all this cap space. But if you use all the cap space this year, what are you going to use next year? Right? Mm-hmm. So, and you can't, and I've said this a few times, but you can't make that sapling grow any faster. I mean, it's going to get to be a big oak tree one day, but you can fertilize it, you can water it and give it some sunshine. It's going to grow, but that's our team. We're the second youngest team in the National Hockey League, the first youngest forward group up front. It takes time, and it's just that's one of our things. So hopefully we can add some good players in free agency that kind of complement our younger guys and help bring them along. But if we get locked into spending all our money and doing 8-7 year deals and locking up everything, we're pinned in. And our team's going to change with it's not going to allow some of our younger players to come in the following years that are ready to have impact in the NHL. It's going to block them. So there's a little bit of a chess game for us where we have to bring in some players, but we don't plan on using all that money and spending, right out the window and locking ourselves in for the next 7 years. So, we want to be smart about how we use our money. And it has to be to complement our team and let our team grow naturally. Let it grow organically. Let it grow. We're 4th year into the rebuild, and let's not get too far ahead of ourselves with unreal expectations, because as soon as you sign, that great player sometimes in free agency, the next question is, hey, you guys got to compete for the Stanley Cup. We're a young team. We're a really young team. Let's go through the Stanley Cup rosters. McDavid 7 years, Barkov 10 years. It goes down the road. Ekblad 10 years. Those guys have been in the NHL for a long time and battling. Every summer to lift weights and get bigger and stronger and faster. We haven't even got to that point yet. So you have to set realistic expectations for the group and understand that we're a young group, we're an entertaining group. We can score. There's a lot of good things that we can do, but I don't necessarily, by adding and filling up our cap, think that we're gonna win the Stanley Cup next year. So we have to be very strategic and smart about how we use our money in free agency.
Thank you.
Joe Coles with the Deseret News.
Hey, what's kind of your draft process been like with 13 picks, and what kind of flexibility does that many picks give you?
Yeah, well, you always find, like, when you get multiple picks in rounds, there's a little bit of draft strategy there for you that you can use, and you can be aggressive. Sometimes you'll look and you'll get a guy that hey, he's a great player, he's a safe player. Like, okay, this guy's in the bank. Let's go and attack this next one. Let's take a little bit more riskier. Sometimes when you have limited amount of picks, you're in the back of your mind, you're kind of like, hey, I don't really want to make a mistake here. It's kind of a guy that we think can play, but he's kind of a safe player. When you have more picks, you can be more aggressive. And I find when you can do that, you can really target some guys that have high potential in the backgrounds too. I think with our process, we're pretty flexible. It allows us to go out and buy players at the draft. If there's somebody available that we think, like we did last year with Dursey, you can always use those picks to go buy players. So there's definitely some options to add some players in. Obviously your phone's got to ring and you got to see if you can make some deals to improve your team. But we do have that option too.
We have time for a couple more follow-ups. Kyle?
Yeah, Bill, I'm curious, as you watched the playoffs this year, did you see anything that changed as far as the game trending, like with things that are successful now than they were 5 years ago, especially with like Edmonton, the way they started the season and then the way they finished it, and then Florida with their defense? And then do you see the ability to add those traits in the draft?
Well, definitely. There's couple trends. The power plays are very dominant now. The percentage of their scoring is through the roof. At the same time, the teams that were winning against those teams were the teams with good penalty kills. So, that's really changed in our game. The ability to have elite penalty killers and elite power play guys. They're difference makers. And so we've got to be very conscious of that. Anytime that we can add that in the draft will certainly help our team. That's a trend that's kind of going through the roof right now in the NHL. Some of the trends that are true for me, like last night, I think Florida out-hit Edmonton plus 11. I think that was the numbers that came across my desk. It's always the same for me. It's like when we were St. Louis, we were a physical team. We won a cup. We just out-hit teams, and that's what happens in the big moments. I think teams get tired, skill level drops a little bit, and you got to pound the body and wear teams down. And sometimes you got to have some size and some grit and to do that. So that's a trend for me that always stays the same. And, we're going to continue to build our team, with not only hockey sense, but with some size, some grit, and keep doing that, and look towards the draft to do that, and see what we can make some hay on draft day here.
Andy Larson.
Bill, you mentioned in one of your earlier answers about what you called the 5 points of character, or your 5 points of character. Can you just talk a little bit more about what that is and what that means to you?
Well, you won't find all the 5 points of character in every player that you draft, but you do bring it to your scouts and say, like, what does he have? Does he play big in the big moments? Does he have the will to improve? Can he lose himself in the team? There's a lot of things within that 5 points of character that we look for. Those are guidelines for our scouts, to go out there and find the right players. There's a lot more to it than all the points of character, but it's part of the process. When you go in our scouting room, the first thing I did when I took the job back 4 years ago, I cried, because I thought to myself, how am I ever going to find a scouting staff like the people I work with in St. Louis? I mean, they're purebred scouts that put sometimes 265, 300 games on their schedule a year and didn't blink about it. They were just diehards. And then I found a way in the hiring process, not only to get Ryan, but also get Daryl. And when I did that, I started sleeping a little bit better at night, because I know those two guys have massive experience. And then we added Larry Plow into the mix and Alan Heppel into the mix, who's built, Larry's a 3-time Stanley Cup winner. Hep had helped build the Avalanche. I had helped build St. Louis. Daryl had helped build Tampa. So when you're in our scouting room, and Ryan had worked for Team Canada and built the Islanders in Buffalo, and so when you're in there, there's a massive amounts of experience in the scouting world around our table, and that pays dividends for us. They're not perfect by any means, but they know they've got enough experience to know exactly what they're doing and what the process should be and how to attack it. And it's been a blessing for this organization to have those guys involved and help us make big strides with this organization, adding top-ranked talent, the Coolies of the world and the Gunthers and the Doans already, and the Mosers that have already played. So it's paid dividends already, and we've got still massive amounts of picks to go.
Dana Green.
Hey, Bill, you've talked about the rebuild of this program. When you look at the Florida Panthers, and just 5 years ago, they just finished their third year of not even making the playoffs, and their rise to the Cup. What can you learn from them and that team's rebuild, or do you emulate anything like that, or is it just kind of all on your different approach?
No, well, every team that wins has something similar and something different. What Florida had done, they might not have made the playoffs, but they had a #1 goaltender in Bobrovsky. They had a #1 D-man with Ekblad, and they had a #1 center with Barkov. They just weren't ready to win yet. But their big three were in place, and you're not winning without your big three. So that's something that we're slowly acquiring. As we move forward, it'll come to light what we might need or what we've already drafted. So they were down the road with that, where we're not down the road completely. They added a lot of free agents. They added a lot of guys that picked off of waivers, a lot of guys that played roles for them that were really key for them. I thought that what they did really well is add a lot of guys through free agency, waivers. It was a tremendous job that Billy Zito and the ownership did down there.
Darren Schill.
Bill, can you give us a 30-second version of how you acquired all these picks?
Well, timing is everything, gentlemen. And, we just so happened to time it around COVID, where the cap just went flat, and it stayed flat for a long time. And teams had anticipated the growth of the cap, and it didn't happen. And teams got stuck with bad contracts. And when we decided to go down and rip apart the team, we timed it just right. And so we ran into a lot of teams that were giving us second rounders to take bad contracts. And at the time, nobody had the cap flexibility that we did to take on those contracts. And it all started kind of with the OEL trade, where we took on a whole bunch of bad contracts and were able to get Gunther. the Gunther pick. So it started then, and it just snowballed, and we amassed a huge amount of picks. I don't know if it'll ever be done again in the National Hockey League to amass that amount of picks in that short a time. But it had to do around COVID, and I don't know if that will happen again. So I don't know if it'll ever happen again. But there's a little bit of luck. There's a little bit of strategic planning. And I think you need a little bit of, I guess, puck luck. I think we got some puck luck on that one, but there was some strategic planning, and we executed the plan. So a little bit of credit on our side, but a little bit of timing and luck too.
Last question, John Matthews.
Hey, Bill, you mentioned your defenseman earlier, a lot of spots to fill there. I just looking on your cap friendly, you have 0 NHL defensemen signed right now. You have 3 RFAs. I'm curious about Durzi and Moser. Any updates on negotiations or what's going on there?
Yeah, those are going to be negotiated. We've got all the faith in the world that we're going to be able to bring back JJ Moser, Durzi and Kesselring and Valimaki. So there's not as many spots as you think. For us is, we try to be, from learning from the teams is that you try and get the right contract for the player. There's a pizza, which is your salary cap, and there's only so many slices. And even though we have massive amounts of slices right now, they're going to go. And you've got to be smart about how you divvy that up. And even though we do have a huge amount of cap room, it's at some point in time with the amount of prospects that we have, it's gonna dwindle. And if you don't balance out your team and give it to the right person, you can end up, being in a battle that you never get back. So it starts every day with us and making sure that we spend the right amount of money on the right amount of players. So
when we come back, the general manager of the Utah Basketball Club, the Utah Jazz. We're going to hear from Justin Zanik next, plus Cody Williams, former Colorado Buffalo, the 10th pick in the draft. The Jazz get him. He slides a little bit. We'll hear from him and Justin Zanik next. Stay with us. Good morning. DJ and PK is proudly presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 18 years in a row. Cody Williams, the guy PK was talking about last fall, falls to the Jazz, and they grab him with the number 10 pick out of the University of Colorado. Here he is with the media after he's chosen by the Jazz.
Cody, Tony Jones from The Athletic. Can you talk? Are you in a position to talk about your workout with the Jazz? What you thought when you were in the building, and what you saw at Salt Lake when you visited a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice. Salt Lake is really nice, really easy to get around. The facility is obviously top notch. I love the gym. I love their weight room. I love the fact that cold tub, hot tub, and we get treatment every day. Heal any injuries that need healing. And I think the workout has shown me big things. Obviously, I'm about to, get in better shape just because of the altitude. I know that plays a factor. Also, they show me, what I need to work on as far as my body goes and how to get better on the court. Found I need to work on more dynamic shooting. It's probably one of the biggest things in terms of shooting that I need to work on. And then, just getting in shape, getting ready to play an 82-game season, especially playing, half of them in altitude. So, but the workout went really well, and I enjoyed it.
Hey, Cody, this is Ryan Miller from KSL.com. Just kind of take us through your reaction to getting picked for the Jazz, and how do you feel like you fit in here?
Man, there's a lot of emotions going through my mind when I got picked. Obviously, I'm more than happy to be a part of the Utah Jazz, and it's a dream come true. But I think just, there's a lot, a little bit of nervousness, a lot of adrenaline, a little bit of anxiety going into it. So I think just hearing my name called, all that went away, and it felt more relieved than anything. I think I fit in with this group of guys just because of my versatility, being a two-way player. I feel like I can bring in defense right off the bat, which I feel like every team needs, but especially with this young core we have. Being able to not only create for myself, but create for others because of, the talent we have on this team, and then kind of, creating offense with our defense. And I feel like I can help that with my length. So that's how I kind of see myself fitting in.
Hey, Cody, Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune. Congratulations, first of all. Wanted to ask about whether or not you expected this, like if you thought it was a possibility coming into the night that the Jazz would pick you, and then what your conversations have been like with the front office and coaching staff so far.
I had no idea where I was going tonight. I kind of made them ask me if I wanted to know, and I was kind of like, you can just surprise me. So I had no idea if I was going 1 through 10, 1 through 15, 1 through 20, 1 through 30, 1 through 60. Like I really didn't know. So I'm stoked to be part of Utah Jazz. Really can't wait to get down there and go to work. I haven't really talked to the front office yet. No, I did just get drafted, but I talked to them during the workouts, obviously, and, enjoyed their conversations. I love how, love how their basketball mind works. But I think I'm gonna talk to them after this or sometime after this, but I haven't had the chance yet.
Cody, Sam Farnsworth, KSL Sports. I just wanted to ask you what you feel is maybe the one or two parts of your game that you think will directly translate over from college to the NBA level.
I think defensively, my versatility, that's something right off the bat, being able to, coming in, guard 1, 2 to 3. I feel like I can help this team out a lot right off the bat with that. And then spacing the floor with my shooting and being able to make plays not only for myself, but for other people's. I feel like that opens up a lot of shots for, other teammates and also opens up stuff for myself.
Cody, John Kuhn, Associated Press. What looking at your game and coming into the NBA, where do you feel like you can kind of evolve and grow as a player? I mean, you already know what you bring to the table and what's on film, but what else is there, do you feel like?
Probably just my body, especially just coming in as, a 19-year-old playing against grown men, about to play an 82-game season, about 3 times as many games I was playing in college or high school. So I think biggest thing, probably just getting my body ready and in shape to endure that, that amount of games.
Hi, Cody. My name's Adam. I work for the CBS station here in Salt Lake City. It takes an incredible amount of determination and hard work to accomplish what you just have, being a top 10 pick. How does it feel to just be at the mountaintop right now and achieve what you've achieved?
I mean, it's the greatest feeling in the world, really, especially when you work your whole life to get to this point, and especially when you land with such a great organization and a place where obviously me and my agents talked about that it would be a great situation for me, a great scenario. In the summer, I could really help out the team in many facets. So, first things agree come true. Feel relieved that I landed here, and also excited just to get down to Salt Lake City and start getting to a routine, start getting to a rhythm, working out, getting a consistent schedule. Just because I've been flying around so much.
Awesome. All right, Cody, we're going to open up some questions, one per outlet on here. So if anyone wants to go ahead and chime in, you feel free to ask your question and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Cody, Jacob Toby from Denver. Congratulations. What does this mean? You came to Colorado to play for Tad and for him to develop you and for this to all work out. What does the University of Colorado and Tad mean to you now that you got this thing done and you're a top 10 pick?
Obviously, I chose that school for a reason because I believed in them and made the right decision. I knew they would get me right, not only to have success in college, but help me pursue my dream of being to the NBA and prepare me to do so. So obviously, you can see it worked out. I was able to be a top 10 pick, due to their help. So.
Hi, Cody. Sarah Todd from the Deseret News. I'm wondering, is your brother there with you? And if not, or if so, have you talked to him and kind of what was his reaction? What did he say to you?
Of course, yeah, of course he's gonna be here for the draft. I'm not gonna miss that. Yeah, he's in my group room with me. I haven't talked to him yet. Like I got my name called and I came straight here. But I'll talk to him. I'll probably talk to him about like an hour after I finish, this little media circuit. So.
Cody, it's Pat Rooney from the Boulder Daily Camera. Congratulations. Wondering, this past season at Colorado, obviously physical struggles for you. Was there ever a point where you were concerned those setbacks was going to cost you come draft day, or were you pretty confident you'd be able to get to this point, which is kind of where you were projected at the beginning of the season?
No, I didn't really feel any pressure or worried because I didn't put a timetable on myself. And, me going back for another year at Colorado, I was fine with that. But never really let injuries get the best of me. Never really let it, keep my head down. So I was able to push through it. Pretty kind of have to be mentally tough to handle those adversity and kind of fight through, the mental aspect of injuries, which I was able to do. So I wasn't ever really worried about my draft slot just because I was also focused on Colorado basketball and not the draft.
Hi, Cody. Congratulations. Nikki Edwards, Hughes Sports Report. I'm just curious, throughout this draft process, how much have you, Tristan and KJ, been talking with each other about what's been going on and just sharing ideas? And just throughout from point A to point B, how much you guys have been talking with each other?
Just keeping tabs on each other, checking out, asking each other, how many workouts they've done, where you're working out to next, making sure we're all good, just checking up on each other throughout this process. And obviously after I got drafted, went up and hugged Tristan, dapped him up. So I'm also excited to see where he lands, but we're definitely going to continue to keep tabs on each other and stay close.
Hey, Cody, this is Tyler King with the Denver Gazette. Obviously, it's a big night for the program with you and Tristan in the green room. KJ's there in New York as well. I mean, how much pride do you take in being part of kind of this big night for the program? I think it's the first time ever that, the program has had multiple first-round picks with you and Tristan, and KJ could be as well. I mean, could be a really big night for the program.
No, most definitely. It just shows the hard work and, the trust we have in the program and the hard work the program puts into developing its players. So I think really the results tonight will speak for itself.
There's Cody Williams now. Here is Justin Zanik talking about the Jazz first-round draft picks. They get Cody Williams with the 10th pick, USC's Isaiah Collier with the 29th. Here is Justin Zanik.
I mean, we had talked right before the draft with you guys, and I said it was going to be unpredictable. That's about the only thing that I could predict, that it was going to be unpredictable. So I think there's a number of things going on in the draft, and so we do quite a bit of modeling in time, and constantly, even we try to set up as much as we can before the draft, or just with possible teams could be interested, move up, move down, and so you start getting a number of calls when various players who think teams or people projected weren't going to be or are still around, and there was quite a few. So anyway, you start getting calls. I've been weighing whether you trade up, trade down, trade back, and a lot of our modeling just said for us to stay put, and it made sense, and we're thrilled with how the draft went. Thrilled.
Can I just ask a basic question? Why do you like Cody Williams? Why do you like Isaiah?
So with Cody, he's a true wing with NBA speed and talent and skill. He's very young, obviously a lot of work to do on the body. I think when you guys meet him, one of the things I was very impressed with is he's much more mature for what a normal 18-and-a-half-year-old is. He's one of the youngest players in the draft. And he's got a spirit and some experience because he went through this with his brother and sees what it's like, and he loves basketball. It's a basketball family. And I'm really excited for him to be part of our program, and we're really happy to, continue to help him grow.
Yeah, when it comes to his brother, how much can that help to just have a family member in the NBA with you?
I think for the most part, it's really beneficial because, you might ask, Keontae George, 365 days after he was drafted, and it's like, what have you learned? He hears that from his brother every day, like the first three years, like, I had to work harder. I thought I worked hard. I needed to work harder. The physical, the strength, the physicality you need to play in the league. A lot of people don't get that until it hits them straight in the face. And they're like, oh, wow, this is a different league. And so just having that perspective early and someone who is, in his family, a very hard worker and has experienced good early success, I think is a great example for him. They're going to be different. They're not the exact same player at all. But just being able to be around that, can continue to inspire and grow Cody's passion for the game.
How do you help him avoid those comparisons, I guess, because those are obviously going to...
I mean, he could get his last name changed, I guess, but, that's going to be inevitable, but his time in the league is going to be, and his reputation is going to be marked by what he does and how he grows and progresses, and that's how you make your own reputation.
Both Cody and Isaiah are high RSCI guys who then, I don't know if you could say disappointed, but maybe a little bit in their college seasons. So what do you see from their high school games that maybe didn't translate in the college aspect that may translate with the Jazz or in their pro careers?
Yeah, I think a couple different reasons. Like with Cody, he came into a very mature team, an older team that played. And so I think a lot of times he would defer and try to figure out how to play with them. And so you learn a lot like that, how to play with others. the high school stuff, you see the athletic talent and the skill and all those things that he did a very good job in high school. So I don't think that there was anything concerning that it wouldn't project. It's like you're trying to find context within college of why things were the way they were. But, like I said a couple days ago, is like you're finding the positives, and there's a lot of positives with Cody and with Isaiah. I think with Isaiah, he was a very prominent high school player, much like, different players, but much like Keontae, and was dominating his competition. And, at one point, the number one player in high school on a big schedule. Going to USC, the season obviously didn't go the way they all wanted. A lot of ups and downs that, he had an injury in the middle. I think he did start, he learned how to play with his team. Had a bunch of turnovers early, though those improved in the last half of the season. He still has a great frame and speed and can get in the paint whenever he wants. Like, that's something that you usually can't teach. So are there things we need to continue to work on? Work on the pull-up, work on the shooting. I think he shoots it fine, mechanically. I'm sure that our coaches will be able to do things, but the thing I think he also profiles is that I think he can be a very good guard defender with the body and being able to see and read. I think that can be just as important defensively too.
How do you see Isaiah's ability to pass the ball fitting in, with the rest of the roster?
As you know, our coach says, move the ball. He moves the ball. Having other guys that play that way, I think, only help the teammates and help Isaiah. I think Cody also he's the farthest thing from a selfish player. He likes to move the ball. He likes to connect with his teammates. You saw that in Colorado, whatever role he had to play. So having two guys that can connect with our group, I think is important. And they have physical profiles that I think have historically shown very good results in the NBA.
You mentioned the possibilities of trading down or out. Were there possibilities to trade up? Because that was some of the rumors.
Yeah, there were a couple. Okay. There was a couple from 10. It just, I was really happy that we stayed at 10. You just don't know, and then things start to fall, and then the price gets out of whack, and it just didn't make sense. A lot more to move up from 29 to early 20s, stuff like that. But as the draft started to fall, there was very high percentage chances that on our probability markers that the guys that we like were going to be there. You'd be paying for certainty, which sometimes is really nice, but we had a group of players that were going to be available that, so we are absolutely thrilled that Isaiah was available for us to take.
With Cody, how much do you anticipate him being able to contribute right away versus how much development does he need and to be ready in the next few years?
I think all of these guys are going to need time to develop and NBA experience and things like that. So how his summer goes, and then how many gains can he make? I think the strength part's going to be a huge part for him. So what kind of progress he makes, and then how quickly he learns stuff and things like that. So as I've told you guys know very well from Coach, there's no free minutes, but there are opportunities, obviously, with a young developmental squad to earn a place. And no matter where that place starts, we've had historically a very good track record of being able to get guys where they want to go. So.
And this question is from Sarah Todd. With both Cody and Isaiah, there's been questions about shooting. Cody with volume, Isaiah with consistency. What are your thoughts there for both players?
Good question, Sarah. The volume, obviously, the way we play and, his footwork and working on some of those things for him to be able to get it. He's certainly got the frame and the height to be able to, become a volume deep shooter. It's one of the things that we'll work on. I think with Isaiah, the part for, I'm not making excuses at all, but when you've been so dominant in the high school level and even college to get in the paint whenever you want and be at the rim whenever you want, and absolutely dominate your competition that is your age, you can make an argument of whether he's had enough reps or not, but to be able to do that, because he's not going to be able to do all that all the time in the NBA. He's going to be able to do some of it at a high level. So having those other parts to his game, he's a very hard worker, and I think also he hasn't shown it as much because he's been so dominant that way. So all of them need work, but we're fine with the mechanics. Maybe we'll make some tweaks, but it's really his pace and his ability to see and his ability to, make others better and be able to score for himself and create for himself is big qualities.
When we come back, more on the draft. What is trending on the way? Stay with us.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag Utah Jazz.
With the 10th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Cody Williams from the University of Colorado.
Shaka Smart, the head coach for Marquette, said this of Cody Williams. He said, probably the best young player in the country. He is a ridiculous talented.
With the 29th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Isaiah Collier from the University of Southern California.
He is a skilled, strong, physical guard. I mean, heavy pick and roll operator. You heard Bobby mention Tyler Kolek. This is the type of player that Utah is getting. He has excellent size, strength, his shot creating in transition. He plays with a burst of speed. He is an explosive athlete from the point guard position, from the off guard position. He can create with the ball in his hands. They got a great guard in Isaiah Collier.
The Utah Jazz. And PK's giggling. Utah Jazz drafting 2 Hall of Famers, 2 Olympians. All right, the first pick, you had to be excited. Cody Williams has fallen. That's been your guy since the fall.
You decided he'd fall.
I was not the only one who decided he'd fall.
I'm not saying that. So stupidity in company makes you stupid in company. Whoop-de-doo. I wasn't surprised. I told you for weeks that's who they were going to draft. You think I just made that up?
Yes.
Well, you're wrong. That's 2. You're 0 for 2, and it's 7:05. Man, I don't think he fell. I think that's where he was going to go, and they knew they were going to get him. That's why they didn't want to trade up. They knew he was going to be there. And he's the guy I wanted all along. I'm telling you right now, this guy is going to be a big-time player.
So when Justin Zanik just said it was unpredictable, you don't think he was telling the truth?
Man,
and you thought it was unpredictable?
People say stuff and you just believe them as if it's just. I can't speak for what he said. So now I think Justin Zanik is 7:06. Man, you're on one today. I think Justin Zanik was lying. You got that because I thought Cody Williams would be available for 10, and somehow you decided I think Justin Zanik is lying?
You didn't think it was
I have no idea what
unpredictable.
Justin Zanik was thinking. I can't speak to what Justin Zanik thinks or doesn't think. I don't know. I didn't even listen. What did he say?
He said the draft was unpredictable, which I think implies that while they wanted Cody Williams, I don't think they were sure he was going to be there.
Good for you. Way to go. I thought he was going to be there, and he was there. If they didn't think he was going to be there, they would have traded up. They wanted him. That's the point I'm making. I'm not just going to speak for Justin Zanik. I'll let you do that. They wanted this kid, and they got him. That's the most important thing. They knew that Hendricks last year was going to be available, and they got him. That's the most important thing. That's all that matters. I don't. Justin Zanik's a liar. Yeah. He's a bad dude. I wish he would throw him out of the country. I mean, where are you going with that? They call him. I think Justin Zanik's a liar. Who cares? I think Cody Williams is the player they wanted, and they got him. That's great news. I think he's going to be a great player. I've only been saying it since November.
Do you think they're going to move veterans now and clear playing time, or do you think it's going to be a slower, bring them along slower? Sometimes guys go to the G League, or sometimes they're on the bench a little bit.
You know, I think they have to see what they can get done. I don't think you just give away to open up doors. I think that's, as Justin Zanik said, and I believe everything he says, Will Hardy does not give free minutes, and that's important. You know, Jerry Sloan did not give free minutes to Deron Williams. And if Jerry Sloan thinks something, you better believe I'm going to be right behind him at all times. when it comes to basketball. And that's how much of respect I had for that man, and we all had it for that man for sure. So I think that they have to pursue these opportunities over these next, week or 2, 3 maybe, and see what's available there. But I don't think they're just going to literally open up stuff for the sake of opening it up. It has to be earned. You know, they've got coming up, what is it? It's not next week. When's the Summer League? Is it next week or the week after? I think it's the week after,
2
right?
weeks out,
yeah. So see how that goes a little bit. But, I mean, this is a good day for them. They targeted somebody, and they got him. That's what's cool about it. And I think he's going to be a great player. And all these things that you can talk about, his shooting, and he didn't shoot that much. Well, yeah, man, just look it up. He had 2 guys that, and I think Simpson will be drafted today, and De Silva obviously was drafted last night. Those guys, I looked at it weeks ago. 13 field goals. Cody Williams FGAs 3 times of at least 13. The other dudes, let's see, Simpson 21, and I think De Silva 17. Come on.
They're taking the shots.
Yeah, they needed to improve their stock. His stock was already high.
And then Isaiah Collier at 29. As we heard, a highly ranked high school recruit.
It really was.
It didn't translate at USC, but there was a lot going on at USC. So I don't know how much that goes on him.
Missed over a month with a hand injury.
Right, he's got that in the middle of the season.
As it was going down to the picks and you see who's available still, the thing that came to my mind, and it's not exactly a ringing endorsement, but it's not a bad endorsement either. Not that my endorsement matters. But my thought was, why not? It's worth it.
He's got something to unlock. Wouldn't be the first guy where something didn't translate exactly right in college, but worked out better in the pros.
But I think that when you listen to Justin talk on Monday, they're talking about the evaluation of these guys begins long, in the case if you're really good, long before you get to college. So let's not go crazy on the college season, because that's not only the be-all and end-all of evaluations.
They've been watch him at least at 16. Maybe some guys they see younger than that.
And then
they're seeing all the elite guys at 16 and 17.
And the off-season stuff, and then in the off-season stuff for the NBA, the combine, yada, yada. So my original thought was, okay, why not?
Jazz get one more pick, number 32 today. Second round starts at 2 o'clock. They've got the second pick in the second round, so don't be late. And, of course, we'll update you right here on The Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
With the first pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Zachary Rizache from Lyon, France, and France's J.L. Boron-Bress.
That's a blessing, so exciting. There's a lot of feelings and emotions right now. I don't know what to say, but that's definitely special, and I'm so blessed.
French players going 1 and 2, and 4 of them getting taken to the first round, 3 of the top 6. Tony Parker and Boris Diaw and Rudy Gobert, I guess, inspiring a whole generation of players. French basketball taking over.
I think cash inspires a generation of players.
The New York Knicks are set to re-sign OG Anunoby on a 5-year, $212 million deal. Along with acquiring Bridges, they're projected to be the starters at wing for the Knicks, so big money for him.
Yeah, I thought the coolest thing was Dylan Jones going in the first round out of Weber. That's awesome.
Getting traded twice, although Oklahoma City wanted him all along. The pick move from Washington to New York, and now he goes to the Thunder, who have a rep for developing players.
Yeah.
A 4-year guy, a guy who didn't transfer, a guy who went to a school that doesn't get to play on TV.
Yes, absolutely.
Probably had plenty of schools. Hey, Dylan. Nope, I'm here at Weber.
Yeah. That's a nice story, and we're all going to wish him big-time success.
And stayed despite a coaching change, which is often a reason players take off. All right, more of the draft coming up. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Hashtag NFL.
Give me the best elevator pitch for Kyler Murray, MVP candidate in 2024.
Yeah, this is my third year with him now, and he seems more motivated than ever. He's a guy who's bringing everyone together. We're throwing every weekend. We're getting everyone together, and he's in the building, first one in, last one out. You know, he's one of those guys who's doing everything the right way, and this is the most confident I've seen him. This is his first year that I've been fully healthy with him. He's fully healthy. I think everything's trending in the right way. He has a ton of weapons out there, and I have full confidence that he's capable of an MVP season.
Arizona Cardinals tight end Trey McBride. An MVP season for Kyler Murray. They're saying all the right things in the desert. But will it translate in a division that's been really good with the Niners and the Rams going to the Super Bowl and the Rams winning it? Heavy lifting to be done.
He'd have a chance to be MVP. Not now.
Indianapolis Colts general manager Chris Ballard says that quarterback Anthony Richardson remains full go for training camp despite some shoulder soreness. 22 years old, 1 year in the league, had season-ending shoulder surgery in 2023 after spraining an AC joint. So, how good will he look when it's time to go? How healthy will he be? Full go. NFL informed its team, no supplemental draft. So, you got who you got. And the judges dismissed a lawsuit claiming sexual assault against the Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. Ruling comes on the heels of Dallas police announcing in May they'd found insufficient evidence to support a criminal case. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Swung on and well hit to right field. Heading back toward the wall is Tommy Pham. He will leap, and it's gone. It's into the bullpen. That's a home run for Shohei Ohtani.
There's a drive out toward right again. Cameron back for this one. It's over his head, and it's gone! A grand slam! Mickey Moniak hits one out, and the Angels are ahead 5-2.
Here's the 2-0 pitch.
Deep down the right.
A big day for home run hitters, PK. Shohei Ohtani goes deep, his 25th of the year. Dodgers shut out the White Sox 4-0. Home run number 26, Gunnar Henderson. Orioles beat the Guardians 4-2. And home run number 30 for Aaron Judge, a monster shot, although the Yankees get hammered by the Mets 12-2. Judge goes deep again, 30 homers, 75 ribbies. He's on a historic pace. He's on pace to get to his own American League home run record of 62. You got a favorite among all the sluggers?
The Shohei kid. Set an RBI record for the Dodgers, 10 consecutive games. Yeah.
Ripping up the record book.
He's the Shohei kid.
Did you see the ball boy catch that screaming liner into the dugout?
No,
Saving him.
I was at the arena last night.
All right.
I was at the arena last night.
Nice.
So was DJ. I got a picture of him at the arena.
Yeah, I ran into friends of yours.
Was not a lot of people.
What's up, Travis?
Wasn't a ton of people there, or weren't.
I thought it was like maybe, I don't know, 4,000, something like that.
A lot of them left after the first pick.
Yeah, a lot of them did not
surprise me.
Stick around for 29.
Yeah. 29 can be a good pick. We've seen it many times over.
It could happen.
Yep.
Bees lose to the Albuquerque Isotopes 6-1. Teams play at 6:20 here on the Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag golf.
PGA Tour headed to the Motor City. Detroit hosting the Rocket City Mortgage Classic. Patrick Fishburne, Zach Blair in the field. This is the time with the guys getting ready to head overseas for the Open Championship. The fields tend to start lightening up a little bit.
Someone Fowler won last year, if I remember. Yeah.
Tony Finau won it 2 years ago.
Had a nice breakout. Yeah, Fowler has some local ties here. Obviously, Tony does big time.
What is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up, Randy Rahe, former Weber State men's basketball coach, is going to join us at 8 o'clock to talk about his guy getting drafted. 8:30, Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host, NBA TV contributor. We'll talk draft with him and look ahead to trades and free agency. Connor Morrissette covers USC basketball for 24/7 Sports. He'll be here at 9:05 to tell us more about Isaiah Collier, the 29th pick in the draft. And Tad Boyle, Cody's coach at Colorado, joins us at 9:40. Plus, we got tickets to give away to see RSL take on Atlanta on July 6th. We'll do that in the 8 o'clock hour. The question of the day, we're talking NBA draft next. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
If Taylor Hendricks were coming out this year, he would be very squarely in the conversation for the top pick. There's just not a combination player who has his size and shooting in this year's draft, which is all the NBA is about. Do you want to take away what we learned about the finals this year? Get big guys who can shoot. Yeah. Play 5 out, have big guys who can play both sides of the floor, and most notably can shoot the ball.
And can guard it all.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, Taylor Hendricks is that guy.
But at 10, you can take a flyer on Hendricks. That's why I never thought that was, that pick drew some criticism, I guess. Man, the potential of Hendricks is absolutely through the dang roof.
Yeah, still there.
If he develops skill, he's got all these things that you just can't teach. Look at that guy. 6'9", runs like the wind, long, could jump out of the gym. I'll try and teach him skills. My Atlanta.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
The Washington Wizards select Dylan Jones from Weber State University.
Well, he's a really big guard. He's just under 6'5", weighs about 240 pounds, but a 6'11" wingspan. The only question mark that I have about Dylan Jones, and it's the only one, is that in college, he had the ball in his hands all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And in the NBA, he's going to have to play off the ball a little bit more. But that's a minor thing because he can do it. He's a really talented player.
Hot Takes or Toast is brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. NBA Draft Round 1 in the books. There's Jay Billis talking about the former Weber State Wildcat Dylan Jones. His coach Randy Ray will be here at the top of the 8 o'clock hour to talk about that draft pick.
Billis loves his wingspan. He's a wingspan guy. He's always talking about wingspan.
Stick your arms out. Be a defender. Deflect a pass. Wingspan makes it easier. I guess that's what he's hanging his hat on. It's time for the great debate. You've waited all year. What did you make of the Jazz 2 first-round draft picks?
I thought they were bleeping brilliant.
Chad, it doesn't matter what I think. We had a near championship contender and broke it up. So it only matters that we build a championship caliber team, and it's too early to tell if this was a step in the right direction.
If you have a near contender, do you have a contender?
Nope, but you almost do. For whatever that's worth.
But that isn't the goal, to have a near contender.
No, the goal is to have a contender, not get knocked out in the first or second round.
Yeah.
Get to the conference final. Be one of the 4. Have a shot.
Right. And, yeah, that's what they're trying to do. Collier, I'm going to wait and see. You got to wait and see on everybody for sure. But I think Williams was the guy. I've been saying it for weeks and months. He's going to be so good in about 2-3 years. You got to give it time. That in this world of media, there's going to be so much new media. They're going to have, these guys are going to be so prominent going forward, unlike stuff that we have now. It's hard to imagine what the future holds from media, social media, and all this stuff. But he's going to have his own network. He's going to be, he's going to have his own channel.
Sweet.
And they're going to call it the CW.
Already taken.
Well, Doc Irving.
He'll buy him out.
Doc Gooden, Doc Rivers. I mean, what? Plenty of room there.
Well, Chad says, I believe he has qualities. He says, I'm not high on him, but I believe he has qualities that can change my mind. Time will tell. Just not too much time, please. I'm getting old.
Why are you not high on him? I'm high on him.
Yeah, he doesn't go into why.
Well, I need to know.
Chad, get back to us. We want to know why.
Come on, people. Here's your chance. What do you got?
Mark, I thought the Jazz hit it out of the park with Williams and Collier. I was disappointed the Celtics took Baylor Sherman there with the last pick of the night. I was hoping he'd be there at 32. Double back and get him. Well, you don't get everything. It's the way the draft works. It's inevitable. Hector, for what the Jazz had, I think they did pretty good, especially with that second pick in the first round. I feel like he's going to be a good player. Don't know as much about Cody.
Well, and you haven't been listening. We've been talking about him for weeks.
Months.
Years. In the case of me, he's a Phoenix guy. I told him last night, I said, hey, man, I know you're tough because you survived Phoenix summers like I have. Oh, yeah, man. If you can do that, he played right along.
115.
Exactly
Not
what I
a
was
problem.
talking about.
Head out to the blacktop courts and play at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Tough it out.
Oh, that's a little rough right there.
Now you're asking for dehydration and serious physical issues.
Yeah, that's literally dangerous to your health.
Dave, I'm so glad they took Cody. I'm looking forward to PK's nonchalant response first thing in the morning. So he has been listening and following along.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a basketball expert by any stretch, but, man, I just think he's going to be a good player.
Gordon, lame.
Lame?
That's his take on the 2 picks. Come on, Gordon. You got to at least have a little hope.
Lame? No.
That's what he says.
Why?
Lame.
Why?
He just wants to be cranky.
I mean, the draft is a time of optimism because you listen to the folks on the Nationals and they just praise everybody. And then you listen to the locals and our guys there. I was on for about 90 minutes last night, and we just do nothing but praise. And nobody wants to be the guy. This sucks.
2/3 of these guys aren't going to make it.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm sure there were 29 other radio shows that were just excited about it. It is the time. It's like spring ball. Oh, we had a good spring ball recruiting. We had a good recruiting class. We addressed our needs, man. We've got some players who are going to fill some holes for us. You know, it's the same stuff over and over again. That's why I think that, you talk about it beforehand when there's really nothing at stake and you don't want to be the one criticizing the local people. And so if Williams turns out to a player, I got it right. If he doesn't, I got it wrong. But I think he will.
Well, I mean, did you get it wrong? He's good enough and worth taking a flyer on. I mean, the top 10 picks are going to miss. I guess that to the degree that somebody gets it wrong with a pick probably depends on how many guys on the board are really good after him if he misses by a mile. Right? I mean, technically, Houston got it wrong when they took Akeem instead of Jordan, but did they really get it wrong? They got a local guy who won back-to-back titles.
That's an extreme example.
It is an extreme example.
They blew it on Azubuike.
Yes. I mean, and that's because the next guy in the draft, who many people wanted and wasn't exactly a sleeper.
Well, there was 2 guys in the draft.
Bain went nuts.
Well, I would take McDaniel over Bain.
Okay. So if you make that pick, then you take heat for it.
I don't consider at 10 you're taking a fly on someone. That's too loose. That's too cavalier. That's not the way I go. Not on 10. No.
Don't you think a pick like Holland has a better chance of getting criticized because there weren't a lot of people talking about him? Now, maybe he turns out and he's the guy and they got it right.
If you worry about what ding-dongs like me say, then you're going to be sitting with ding-dongs like me. I mean, a lot of people who...
But at the same time, everybody doing mock drafts.
Who cares what they think?
Well, I think that you get judged against that.
No, you don't. You get judged against whether the player is good. You get judged on whether the players afterward were better. That's what you get judged on, not what some ding-dong at Yahoo Sports says. We're all ding-dongs. I put myself right at the top of the list. I'm not worried about what the media says. You got to shut that crap out. That's a never-ending battle. You'll never win that. There's always something to do. They've got to feed the beast every single day. Just do what you think is right, and then get the job done. Simple as that. Knowing that you're not going to bat 1,000, I don't care who you are. So, worried about somebody's mock draft.
Tony says, I'm curious what Collier does to Keontae George. Is he now trade bait? Because the 6'2", 6'4" backcourt, well, that was what they moved off just a couple of years ago.
Well, neither of them are 6'2", so we don't have to worry about that.
The Williams pick is as good as you can get at the number 10 spot.
What did we move off of a couple of years ago?
He's referencing the smaller backcourt of Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell.
Worked for Weston Goodridge.
And the game hasn't changed at all since then. So
No, you got
work
to put the
again.
ball in the basket, and you got to stop people from putting the ball in the basket.
And there's taller guys running around on the court now. So you're looking for taller
Great.
guys.
So
to
then
compete with
draft
them.
taller guys. If that's the objective, there are plenty out there. Draft them. And you solve that. If that's the big issue, to have taller guys, then draft taller guys, and you're good to go.
And they did. That's why they took Cody with the number 10th.
I don't think they took him because he was taller. I think
No,
they took him because
taller
he was good.
and athletic. And other qualities I like about
I
him.
want good players. And if they have challenges, even better. Because then have an axe to grind.
Well, if they both turn out to be really good, they'll always be a team in the league, and they could move one or both of them if they bring a third guy along at some
that's
point.
a problem? No.
Right.
No, not at all. That's not a problem. The more better players you got, the more better you have a chance to succeed. That's what Bill Armstrong said of the Hockeytown UTA. If I got multiples, then I can trade and get better players that way. So the more I can get, the better. That remains to be seen. And plus, did they really looking at Chris Dunn as the future of the backup?
No.
Right. So right there, you can let that go. And who's to say? Collier might not even be a player. Chris Dunn was taken fifth, sixth? And he really
He's
didn't.
bounced around.
He didn't amount to his draft status.
No.
His draft selection didn't equate to the level of success, especially when Steph Curry. No, that wasn't the Steph Curry draft. I was thinking of Minnesota when they drafted Johnny Flynn and Rubio, and then Golden State says, "Okay, we'll take Steph Curry," and he was small and slight, and would his body maintain and all that stuff. Yeah, the more knocks against you, the better. See what you got there. There's always going to be skeptics and critics. That'll never change.
Except on draft night. Lots of positivity on draft night. But the skepticism will return shortly.
Well, the national broadcast will be positive, and then the local folk will be positive. What you'll have is not the national people. They're national, but they're not the national broadcast. They'll go back, and I already seen Zach Big DD. Oh, that was the worst pick they've ever made. Blah 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 blah. They're not national people. They're national people, but not at that level. They're the ones. The TV people are prone to just be happy talk, and that's sort of in their DNA.
There'll be 30 more good picks today. I'm really intrigued by that kid.
Yeah, the good thing, I won't have the sizzle, but you don't need to be drafted till 2 a.m. back east.
That's I bet we get some sleep and come back and try this again.
Right. So that makes sense.
And they're getting a lot of money from their TV partners, so they gave their TV partners a show for this afternoon.
Yeah, it won't have the sizzle, obviously, but at least you're not having the bleary-eyed people being forced to just go through it all.
What'd you make of the Jazz 2 draft picks? Justin thinks they were awesome with 3 exclamation points.
Sweet.
Were they awesome enough that now the front office goes all in? Because while the coach does determine the playing time, the front office can have an impact based on who they do or don't move and who they do or don't acquire. How many of the guys you think we've seen drafted in these last 2 years? It's 5 guys right now. It'll be a 6th one, unless there's a trade, when they make the 32nd pick today. How many of them are going to be in the rotation next year? I mean, it would be easy to see, especially picks 29 and 32, Collier and whoever today. It wouldn't be surprising to see them in the G League. But the younger they go, they can work on development, see what they have, and not tank, but improve their draft position while they see what they have with these young guys.
Well, I think you have to do that. I don't think that there's any question.
Dunn's gone. Clarkson's gone. Collins is gone.
Well, I don't know.
Time.
But, I mean, you can still have them. They can still play. They can still get time. And then there's an open competition. I mean, none of these veteran guys are like world beaters. I mean, no one's going to take Markkanen's spot. We understand that. But certainly, Hendricks he's got to get some significant minutes. It's go time for him. We gave you the rookie year to go bounce back and forth, and that's fine and all. But you, on your own merit, showed enough to warrant it. Right? I think that's where we're at with him. And George is already
George, right. He and George should get the minutes.
Yeah.
But how many beyond that? Does Sensabaugh gets minutes? And what do they do with Cody Williams?
I think Cody Williams is going to have an opportunity to earn himself some playing time right off the bat. I don't think he's as raw as Hendricks was.
Play the 15 minutes a game, see how it goes, and then if he can earn more, he can earn more. You got to earn the more.
Well, I mean, they got the preseason, they Summer League first, and obviously the training camp. Let's see. I mean, I would take it reasonably slow. I wouldn't take it slow. That's my mindset going into it. Let him decide how slow you take it, not you decide. Majerus also say that all the time. I don't decide minutes; they do. You know, that was his big thing. I mean, the guy I heard him say it 100 times, and he was right. You do what you're supposed to do, and you're good enough. And depending on what your role is on the team, if you're a guy who's a screener and a ball reverser and all of a sudden jacking up 20 shots, that ain't going to work. But the role that we've defined for you, if you fulfill it, and, back to your question on, should they get rid of these guys? They should get rid of everybody if it makes the team better. But, I mean, realistically, what are you going to get for John Collins?
Depends what kind of deal you put him in. Straight up, I don't think you're going to get a lot. Maybe you'll get something from a team that lacks depth and wants more players. I mean, he's just not.
Yeah, but what's
maybe he's
that?
going to be a star. I don't know. Maybe they got a young guy on their bench that you value and they don't. You can pick their pocket. Okay. I think if they could have gotten a first-round pick for Jordan Clarkson last year, they would have moved Jordan Clarkson last year. I suspect they couldn't get the pick they wanted.
Well,
now, does the price
That's a
tag
negative.
change? Does the price tag change? Is it a combo deal? Where are there draft picks and veterans or multiple veterans? I don't know that everything will be straight up one for one.
I would
Could
hold
be.
off on trading draft picks.
Yeah, I suspect they will. Depending on what they get back, though.
Doesn't mean that
make
I
the
wouldn't
team.
move some of
right.
them. But
what's the deal and how much better are you making the team?
As it stands now, this is probably not a playoff team. Although I think they can make a push for 10th place. Whatever that means. Which wouldn't be so bad because then it would be in March and April. You'd have some competitive games, unlike what we've had the last 2 years. The last 2 years was, oh, man, they really tried hard. There's no quitting these guys. Oh, my gosh. I feel sorry for the broadcasters. I got to say the same thing over and over again. What are they supposed to do? And this look for positives in a 30-point beating there's nothing there.
30 games in a row.
Yeah, right. So extend it into something that at least matters, even if it falls short. And then you've got to show progress. And then next year, you got to continue to show progress. It's as simple as that. I think they can do it with the guys that they have.
Well, when you get this many young guys, that whole internal development thing could pay dividends. How quickly? That's probably guy to guy.
Guy to guy. I mean, the model is out there. Oklahoma City's doing it right now. So it's not like it's a big secret in how we're going to do this. And you need to come up with some more frontline players. I mean, OKC, they pulled off a whale of a trade with getting SGA. And then they end up with a high pick in Holmgren. Although Giddey was, I think, the 6th pick. And I guess you can say that didn't work out, and maybe he circumvented it himself. But then they hit big time with Cody's older brother at 12.
Yeah, and even with Giddey, if Caruso comes in and they have a great year and Caruso's a big part of it, yeah, the guy didn't pay off, but you trade him for a guy who does pay off.
He's a role player.
Yeah.
You're thinking more than a role player at
6.
Yeah. I said that I thought that Cody would be better than his brother at OKC, and Ben, who knows more about it than I do, he thought that was a little outrageous because he sees the older Williams as a multiple All-Star. Like 4 or 5 times, he said. And that raised my eyebrow because I'm thinking, whoa.
How many All-Stars are they going to have?
Yeah. then they're going to be really good.
I mean, SGA is going to be a multiple All-Star, and you'd think Holmgren would
tracking.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. He's clearly tracking. Right.
So if they hit the Durant, Westbrook, Harden trifecta again.
Oh, that would be sweet for them. All young dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just that I was surprised he thought that the older Williams was that good. And we'll see if my prediction, we really have to give it probably 5 years before that even comes to pass. But if you look at the OKC model, can you say the Jazz made the trade to get them market in the way the Thunder made the trade to get them SGA? Now, I think SGA is a little bit better than marketing right now. But then they got the other star was the second pick, I think, right? And with Holmgren.
Holmgren, yeah,
was number 2. I don't see where the Jazz have that yet.
They haven't had the 2 pick, nor do they have the Holmgren talent.
It doesn't look like it right now.
Right.
Now, maybe Hendricks can develop. Maybe Williams can develop.
10
or
picks
maybe they could package somebody to get that.
10 picks have taken off before.
Yeah.
And you're right. They could be traded for somebody down the line. And maybe hopefully, there's still something to come that we haven't seen yet. And
this year you're talking about?
When will Ainge pull the deal and the big game hunting? What's that going to look like? And is it going to be just one deal, or will he make a couple? I mean, that's why we follow this stuff. You got an idea what's probably coming, but you don't really know what's coming.
He thinks that he can get it done, and I want my CEO/GM, whatever concocted title they give him, I want him to think that. I want him to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I just don't know that it could be done. I'm thinking more along the lines of what they did under Dennis and Quinn. They developed guys and then added veterans who were complementary players to make the team a playoff team and a team that got to the second round.
But everybody wants more than that, so at some point they probably have to pull off more than that.
Yeah, but that team never got an opportunity to fulfill itself because Hayward took off. So that particular team will never know. They think they knew with Gobert and Mitchell because they had extended runs. Hayward became all-star, got to playoffs, boom, he took off. So that particular group, we never really saw how good it could be. But I think that's more likely the manner and the route to go is develop your own guys, and I think they could do that. They could develop Hayward-like players. I think they could develop multiple Hayward-like players. And then if they can do that, then you add vets around them, guys that are been in the game for many years, know how to play team play, and they're older, so they're not looking to come in. They've already cashed in, but they're looking to still get paid and play ball. I think that is a much more reasonable than the big game hunting, but don't deny yourself the big game hunting. Keep after it, and maybe you can get it because he got it in Boston.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Randy Rahe coming up at 8 o'clock because his guy is drafted. He's going to be a Thunder. We'll talk Dylan Jones with him. Brian Geltzeiler on the NBA draft and what he expects from trades and free agency coming up at 8:30 right here on The Zone.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
It's what you want.
Never-ending story is more compelling than short circuit.
No. Stop it. No, stop.
Never-ending story would win a poll against short circuit. Guarantee you. I can't even believe I'm putting this poll together. How do you spell circuit?
By the way, I almost hope...
Do what you feel is right, listener.
I almost hope Never-ending story wins, because if short circuit wins, we're going to lose you for the rest of the show. Show memorandum. Let's just euthanize short circuit. My guy is as upset as any time I've ever seen him in the history of the show.
Why? Because we speak truth?
No more short circuit. Take Johnny 5 and put a crowbar to his head. He's done. Disassemble Johnny 5.
No, disassemble.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Band of the day today is AC/DC, brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com. PK, some people are way down, and it doesn't make any sense to me, but I guess if you want to get way down and do it.
Well, they're jerks.
B-Dots. It's another poo-poo draft. Danny Ainge has ruined my hometown Jazz team. For 25 years, we were playoff teams are in the hunt, and now 3 years of suck.
It's only been 2.
I will not watch a game until Ainge is fired. Hashtag rebuild don't work.
Then you're never going to watch a game.
So you're not going to be watching for a while then.
The rebuild's never going to work. Who stays down forever?
I have a better chance of getting fired than Danny Rahe. But
you don't have much of a chance of getting fired.
But
if you better than Danny Rahe.
Yeah, there's no way. When your owner says, I trust him more than I trust myself.
You should be able to read into that.
Yeah, and I'm fine with him if he trusts him. The guy's a winner, man. Let him do his thing. He's barely getting started.
Plenty of people like the pick. Kevin, I'm glad Cody was still there at number 10. High-quality young man. It'll be fun to watch him develop.
Oh, you want quality human? Well, that's no issue. There's Zippo to worry about that.
Mature for his age. One thing the Jazz loved about him. As soon as you get to talk to him, you see the maturity.
Yeah,
and you could see a little bit of it in the 8-minute press conference he did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Shane, I'm not sure the Jazz got immediately better, but they are potentially better down the line. I'm hoping some good trades materialize. I want to see the Jazz start getting good. And I'm not sure Markkanen's good with continually tanking the last part of the season.
Well, I think he is good, and I also think I've known for weeks that you were not going to get immediately better. That wasn't a possibility through this draft.
There weren't good enough players.
And there really rarely are, for that matter.
Well, for all the hype of Wembayama, the Spurs went out and lost a lot of games and got another high pick.
Yeah, I actually think they had a worse record.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Wyatt, I look at this draft, and I got my fingers crossed.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Scott's on board. The Jazz will be world champions one day. CHOMP.
I think they will be.
It's out there somewhere?
I got to believe it is. I just got to believe that if you keep doing the right things, it'll pay off. And maybe that's my junior high fantasy Pollyanna look at life rarely optimistic view.
You just tried something on to see how the other half lives? Let's try a little positivity here.
I don't know that it correlates to sports. I absolutely, this is true, right from the heart here. If you
BS, no playing radio.
No, if you work hard in whatever chosen field and do what you're asked and keep your head down and just keep plowing away, grinding, showing up every day, that your goals will come to pass. My goal of playing third base for the Dodgers was never going to happen. I was 5'11", 140 pounds when I graduated high school. Right?
That's not ideal?
No.
What was Ron Say?
I don't know what he was, but he was better than me. And actually, now that I think about it, if it wasn't for Ron Say, he was the guy who was in my way.
I see what you did there. Yeah, but it's also you got to be gifted the vision. I mean, so many of these elite hitters, then you find out about their vision. And they're like 2015, 2010. You're sitting over there 2050. Yeah, my guess is you're not going to be able to hit the slider. Your 2070 vision isn't going to get it done.
So by the time I was entering my senior year in high school, I knew this was not going to happen, right? But I also knew I wanted some way to make money in sports. And at that point,
by broadening your goals, then there's an avenue that's realistic.
And I didn't have a father who was in it, so I wasn't going to be able to piggyback off of that like so many of them do, and good for them. I would do the same thing. I don't begrudge them. They got lucky, but I got lucky in a sense too. So we all have our own various forms of luck. So then I decided there wasn't sports radio full-time. It was out there, but it wasn't. There were no full-time sports radio stations. And then I thought, okay, I concocted a plan. I'm 16 years old here. I'll go to college. I'll do half of my college print, and then I'll do half broadcasting. So I got them both, right? And then just keep plowing away. And so my realistic dream came true. I don't know if it translates over in the sports world, but I firmly believe it translates over in real life.
Well, I think that you can look at the Denver Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, the Spurs got extraordinarily lucky multiple times, but it's not exactly L.A., New York, and Miami.
No,
right?
Portland got one, Seattle got one,
Toronto got one.
Yeah.
So I think that you can. Now, when do you get it?
Detroit
and how
has
long,
had a few.
How long do you have to wait?
And we're talking one.
Right.
We're talking 5.
But if your analogy is true, then it's maybe you don't get the ultimate dream, but you get a lot of good stuff. You didn't get to play third base for the Dodgers, but you got a great job as a beat writer, and you got a great job as a sports talk radio host. So you saw and did a lot of cool stuff.
Oh, I couldn't ask for more.
Right. I mean, you sat courtside at a Final Four. You've gone to multiple Rose Bowls, Sugar Fiesta. You've seen cool stuff and met cool people.
Interviewed Michael Jordan in the locker room after Game 3 of the NBA Finals alone, a one-on-one.
That's pretty awesome, right? For a sports fan, that's a pretty cool thing to get to do.
And I interviewed Kobe one-on-one.
Another cool thing to get to do. You check a lot of boxes. But maybe having Hall of Famers and going to the finals, there was a lot of cool stuff that's happened for Jazz fans over the decades. So is winning the title playing third base for the Dodgers? So many teams in the NBA have done it. I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetime, but it's got to happen at some point. But is that day, 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out? I don't see any way to know. But it's part of the magic. If you know, then it's like going to the movies, and you know the movie star who's making $20 million per picture probably isn't going to die in that car chase. The car chase may be fun, but, in the end, Matt Damon's probably going to win.
I'd go Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is going to win, too. Yeah.
Just because he's from Jersey.
DJ and PK, when we come back, Randy Rahe, former Weber State men's basketball coach. He saw something in a kid, recruited him. And 4 years later, that kid is a first-round NBA draft pick. We'll talk to Randy Rahe about Dylan Jones next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, we're joined once again by Randy Rahe, former Weber State men's basketball coach. Randy, good morning.
Good morning, DJ. PK, how are you guys doing? It's been a minute.
Well, we're doing pretty well. We just assume, off what PK's told me about you, I assume I'm not doing as good as you. Where in the world are you, and what excellent retirement adventure are you on right now?
Well, to be honest with you, Laura and I, my wife, are on a cruise right now. We are just past Nova Scotia, heading into Canada, Quebec City, Montreal. So I tell you what, life doesn't suck. It's okay.
All I know is that every time I talk to PK, and if he's texted with you or had some communication, and I know you helped him plan a cool vacation he got to take, and they're going on a cruise, but at that point he was biking across Europe. It just sounds like you're making the best of it here, Randy.
Yeah, you know what, we're trying. We did go on a biking tour across Europe last month or so. So, yeah, we're really enjoying it. We love this area down here. PK, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Absolutely, man. Look forward to going back again someday.
Yeah, a lot of golf. It's been a lot of fun. So, but we've been doing a lot of traveling and enjoying the good weather. And so, yeah, it's been good. It's been really, really happy down here.
Well, now you're going to have to travel to some NBA arenas with the Oklahoma City Thunder to watch Dylan Jones. I don't know where you were as far as that, but that was a pleasant surprise to see him go in the first round.
Yeah, no, it really was. And, I can't wait to get to see him, which obviously we're going to go watch him play. But it was a little bit of a surprise. Just, you follow the mock drafts and all that stuff, and I was in communication with Dylan, along the way a little bit. And his gut feeling was when all the workouts were done, he was thinking, best case scenario, very late first round, maybe more like early or the first 10 picks in the second round. So when it came up last night, I was just tickled to death for him. And, it's a big difference, as you know, getting picked in the first round compared to the second round financially. And so now he gets some guaranteed money, and he can get to work and be assured that he's at least going to be on the roster for, a couple of years, which it'll lead to a lot more knowing that kid. He's he's a wonderful kid. He's got a great future, and he's got that it factor that everybody's looking for, and I guarantee you he's got it. And so I can see great things coming from Dylan. He's going to do great.
At what point when you're recruiting him does it occur to you what his ceiling could be? And is his ceiling what it's turned out to be as of right now? I mean, obviously he can write more of the story here in the pros. But did you see him as an NBA guy, as a draft pick at any point? And if so, what point?
To be honest with you, when we first got him, I didn't know that. I knew that we were getting a kid that, the kid that fit us and our culture, which was extremely high character, tremendous work ethic, very unselfish. He's just I knew right away he's a winning player. And like I mentioned, he had that it factor. I knew that. I didn't know, how far that would take him or how good he would get. I would say after his second year, and he had, we had some ups and downs those first 2 years. Dylan had to grow up. He had to mature. He had to, he put so much pressure on himself that he would mentally get kind of out of whack for the first year and even part of the second year. And but then you could see parts of that season, his second year, where I was like, holy cow. I mean, this kid's got a chance to do something special. And then, then you just see him, his third year, he started to really mature mentally and became a tremendous leader. And then he carried that into his last year. And after his third year, there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to get a chance to play in the NBA, and just didn't know what, first round, second round, what would happen or how he'd get there, but he was going to get there. So incredible worker, just an incredible worker. And like I said, great teammate, and turned out to be just, one of the better leaders that Weber State's ever had.
As far as the talents that he brings to the NBA, he's got the great body and he's bulky and all that stuff. So everybody can get stronger and all that stuff. But I think as a 4-year player, he goes into that already having that established as a good foundation. Do you see him having one skill over another? When you watch him play, it looks like he's more of an all-around player. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, PK. He's, he has changed his body. He's tightened it up, but he's extremely strong and he's extremely durable. The kid's never been hurt a day in his life, but he's got a ready-made NBA body from that standpoint. But the thing that always stood out to me about him, he is an all-around guy. I always compared him to a Draymond Green type of player, kind of positionless. You're not sure where to play him, but you got to play him because he just has such a big effect in every area of the game. But the number one thing that I think he has his strength is his feel for the game is off the charts. He sees the game, way above and way beyond what a player of his age saw it. His skill level is tremendous, but he just has that sense, that court sense and court awareness out there that's why he can, have an effect in every area of the game. He knows as a rebounder, he's a tremendous rebounder. He just knows where the ball's coming, and he gets there before anybody else. And he sees the floor. He's a tremendous passer. He sees the floor, and he sees the play, like two passes ahead of when most people see the play. And then he's got just absolutely tremendous hands. And when you throw that all in, it's not like, one thing sticks out. It's like you said, he's an all-around guy and defensively. He's a tremendous defender just because his instincts are just off the charts. He sees things happening before they happen. But that's what I kind of saw him as, a Draymond Green, just, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, but really good in everything.
I feel like you probably know where you're going to go with half of the next answer. When I hear people be critical of him, how does he play off the ball, and is he going to shoot the three very well, okay, poorly at the NBA level? What do you think about those two things? If he's standing on the weak side because he doesn't get to have the ball in his hands like he did at Weber State, how does that work out?
He'll be fine there. That's probably the thing he improved the most since when we first got him was his three-point shooting. I mean, he had a hitch in his shot when he first got there. And it was, to be honest with you, it was a little bit ugly. And then, for at least the 2 years that I was there, every day we had him working, trying to get rid of that hitch, release the shot with smoother release, and he improved every year. He's going to be able to shoot the three. He'll be able to make it. He's making it now. I know his percentages went down a little bit this year, but I think he had more attempts, and I think with the team he had to probably force a few more shots than normal. But he can play off the ball. He can make corner threes, which is always big in that league. And I think he's going to be more than fine there. But the other aspects of his game are going to be will make up for any lack of a little bit of three-point shooting. But he's also going to work hard at it. He's going to get better at it. I can see him being a 38 to 40% three-point shooter, in the next couple of years in the NBA.
How did you end up getting a kid from South Carolina, which is where you end up living? It's sort of ironic there because it just seems crazy that a kid from way over on the other side of the country would come all the way here, but you spotted him and brought him in.
Yeah, he was actually, PK, he graduated high school, or went to high school in South Carolina, Columbia, but then he went to Sunrise Christian Academy School, which was in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
And that's when we found out about him. And, we recruited him during COVID. And so there was no campus visits. There was no us visiting him. It was everything was done on the phone, FaceTime and Zooms and all that. And so it was about, my assistants told me we needed to recruit this kid. So I started talking to him. And it was probably after our second or third conversation. He had a maturity about him on the phone that was very unique. He was well beyond his years. And everything he spoke of when we were first getting to know him was all about winning. It was all about culture. It was all about leadership. He didn't talk about the things that he was going to do. He was talking to us about the things he wanted to do for Weber State. And it's hard to find that these days. And so we connected pretty early, and we talked constantly. And he had, he was being recruited at a fairly high level before he got to Sunrise. And then for some reason, the recruiting kind of dropped off. And it became 2 or 3, mid-major schools that were really, really interested in him. And then, we just stayed with him and got to know him and his mom. His mom was an absolute sweetheart. And his brother, Eric, is his mentor. And he's the same way as Dylan, just extremely mature, high character, great integrity and values. And Eric was a big part of it, talking to us, talking to Dylan, finding the right fit where he could win and be a part of a strong, strong culture. And after getting to know them for 2 or 3 months, we were fortunate to get him, but it was just such a great fit for what we wanted in our program and for what he was looking for. So we just connected.
Former Weber State basketball coach Randy Rahe joining us. There was a lot of reporting as it all went down. He's been selected by the Wizards. He's going to be traded to the Knicks. Then it's all clear, the pick's moving, and he's going to end up in Oklahoma City. How relieved are you that he ends up in Oklahoma City, where they got a slightly better reputation for developing guys than D.C. and New York? We know they got a coach there who's all in on veterans. But at the same time, ton of competition because Oklahoma City's got a good roster and a good team. So what do you think as you hear all that play out?
I was thrilled that he got traded to Oklahoma City and actually being in touch with Dylan, during the workouts and just the last 3 days a little bit. He kept telling me that Oklahoma City, when he worked out there, he felt like they had the strongest interest and that they had a good plan for him and they were really excited about him. So when it happened, it didn't surprise me. And I thought it was just perfect for him. Yeah, they've got some depth and they got some great players, but it's a young roster. Sam Presti is an incredible GM. I got to know him a little bit when Damian came out and talking to him in their program. I just love what they're all about. They're about culture and they're about winning and all for one, one for all. They don't accept any entitlement. It's not about the player. It's about the team. And I think from that standpoint, the culture is just a tremendous fit for him. And he's going to find his way. I mean, it's going to take him a little while, obviously. But when you're with like guys and like players in a culture like that, he's going to thrive. He's going to get better because it's such a good fit for him. He doesn't do well playing with guys that are selfish or entitled, or it's all about them. He's very much like Damian that way, very much. Damian wanted to find that strong culture where it was about winning and team. And that's what Dylan wanted, and that's what Oklahoma City is, and that's why they're making such great strides. I mean, they were terrific this year, and they're probably one of the teams you look to in the next 2 to 3 years that will put themselves in position to win a championship. But, he'll have his work cut out for him, but he'll find a way to carve out his niche.
Did any NBA teams get in touch with you to get a reference point on Dylan? Yeah, quite a few, actually. I would say probably spoke to 5 to 7, whether it's scouts or GMs, just to get checking on his background and what kind of person he is and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I had a chance to speak to quite a few. And so it was good. I mean, everything was really good. It's fun to talk about a kid that you love to death. Like I love that kid so much. It's fun to talk to guys. You get excited about telling them about Dylan, about what he's about, and what he's going to bring to the table and what he's going to bring to their program. So, yeah, it was fun.
Is it as fun as the cruise and the bike across Europe? How do you rank them?
Obviously, the bike across, it was fun, but the bike across Europe is really fun because we, my wife and I like to do road bikes, and we like to travel and do all that stuff. But the thing with bike riding is you ride for like 30 miles or 40 miles maybe, but then you feel like you can drink more wine when you're done because you've earned it. And that's what my strength really is. I play to my strengths, and I like to drink wine. And so, that was probably the number one. I would say the cruise is a little bit farther behind that, but we're still having a good time.
Well, if you have a chance to do a Mediterranean cruise, PK would appreciate a scouting report. I think his wife has that on the old bucket list there. So down the road, he may need some info on that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, PK, if you do that in the next 2 to 3 years, give me a call, and I need a scouting report on that one. Because I was thinking about the same thing.
All right.
All right, Randy, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for breaking away. Enjoy the cruise and keep enjoying retirement. You seem to be winning at retirement for sure.
Yeah, it's going well. And, hey, it's good to catch up with you guys. Hope everything's going good back there, and tell everybody I said hello.
Okay, we will. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Randy Rahe, former Weber State men's basketball coach, on Dylan Jones, first-round draft pick. We'll see what he does with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And to continue that discussion, PK, that we were having about, if you do things the right way, you get there eventually. And certainly, Jazz fans had their good times and then ultimately their frustrations in the finals against the Bulls. But the Thunder, who obviously haven't been in the NBA nearly as long, man, they really thought they had something with Durant and Westbrook and Harden, and then the money gets in the way and Harden gets traded and they get a taste of the finals and it all blows up. But you keep doing the right thing, and look, they're back in the mix again. And the arrow's up.
And look like they're going to be in the mix for a bit.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host and NBA TV contributor, joins us next to break down the draft and look ahead to trades and free agencies. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Mitch Harper, BYU Insider, KSLSports.com.
Their expectations should be for 6 right now. And I think they can get to 6. And I think it's interesting when comparing Utah, their transition to the Pac-12 back then and the early 2010s in this league for BYU. Utah arrived in a league that had a hierarchy of USC, Oregon, with their flying high with Chip Kelly. This league has nothing. They might be changing its name to a corporate sponsor. I mean, this league has nothing, yet it has, if you win it, you will play in the playoff. Yes, you want to have kind of modest expectations, but at the same time, you have a real chance to set the hierarchy of what this new league is going to be, and you want to go chase it and be in the upper tier of that thing.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. NBA Draft Round 1 in the books. Who won? Who lost? Who took a flyer and is about to cash in? Let's ask Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host, NBA TV contributor. Brian, good morning. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys. How we doing?
Good. Who won? Who lost? Who took a flyer that paid off? Who impressed you? Who scared you? Who shocked you? Jump in anywhere, Brian. What do you think?
Well, listen, let me start with this. I just am not necessarily thrilled with Minnesota's choice to trade into the first trade a pick in the future, just throwing more caution to the wind with their future picks, and ultimately trading up for Rob Dillingham, who I'm not totally sold on. And if they think somehow he's going to be a guy that replaces Mike Conley in the future, I think that they're sadly mistaken. And that I really did not like. Listen, 3 French guys in the first 6 picks. I had a conversation yesterday with a guy that plays in that pro league in France, and he told me that these guys are all really, really good. The interesting part he said to me is that the least athletic of the 3 is the one that went with the first overall pick, Zachary Risache. He's just not – he's going to be like a good 3-and-D guy and can do a lot of things very well on the court, but he will never wow you with athleticism. Frankly, one of the few guys in the draft that has a chance to wow you with athleticism is the first overall pick, second overall pick, Alex Sarr. Listen, the Wizards, it's weird. Minnesota traded into this draft, right, or traded for an extra pick in this draft. Washington traded for extra picks in this draft. And San Antonio, think about it this way, guys. San Antonio chose to only get one player here in this draft. They didn't want the second guaranteed salary on their books. It tells you everything that you need to know about what they thought about the depth of this draft, even down at 8. I mean, at the 8 spot. So, listen, I don't think this was the greatest draft in the world. I do think there were certain teams that did some interesting things to make themselves better. I like the French kid that Charlotte took. I think he's a very, very active and is going to be an interesting player. I think, once again, Oklahoma City had some success being able to stash Topic for a year while he's hurt. I think it's a pretty good move there. And the kid they took, Dylan Jones, from that pick they traded from the Knicks for 5 seconds, which was weird. I think that kid can play too, and I think he's going to help them. So listen, the teams that tried to make this about singles and doubles will do better in this draft than teams that thought they could hit home runs here. So I think, so from that standpoint, there was more teams than not that I didn't think they did a bad job, but it's a weird draft because there's not a lot of high-end prospects here at all.
How much stock do you put in, or you think NBA teams should put in, solely based on what these kids do with these one-and-done players? You take a kid like Isaiah Collier, and then it's supposedly the number 1 pick coming out of high school, goes to USC, and it doesn't really materialize. But I'm wondering, is that really that big of a deal when you've got a body of work that extends before and during the summers and the combines and all that stuff leads into those types of picks?
Sometimes it is. And I say that. I'll give you a great example. A guy that we tried to ignore that with in the draft in college was Andrew Wiggins. But the inconsistent effort that Andrew Wiggins exhibited in his 1 year at Kansas was spun right over into the NBA. That's one of the reasons I expressed concerns with Minnesota trading future draft capital for Rob Dillingham. Because I overly impressed with Shepard and Dillingham with Cal in Kentucky? I wasn't. I thought Shepard at 3, that player, that's kind of a reach. I don't care what he did defensively in college. He's going to be defensive liability in the NBA. He was the number 3 overall pick, and the money that comes along with that. So, I do think you kind of have to look how some of these guys perform in certain spots. Now, listen, there's going to be guys that it takes time to develop. Your player development program is going to matter when you get a player in. But the way the college game is adapted, I think you have to look at college productivity a little bit as more of a correlating factor to NBA success, because the fact that older guys and teams that have guys that have been around the block and through the portal are the ones that are having the most success. Right, Cam Spencer comes over to UConn and helps them win a championship. Now, again, Klingon, Castle, they had 2 other first-round picks, and Spencer will probably be drafted today. But my point being is, and which makes you wonder, about a player like Dalton Knecht, who is he's a plug-and-play guy. He's NBA ready right now. Shot 39.7% from three last year, averaged 21.7 points a game. He's best player in the SEC. Like, that, to me, I got me scratching my head why that guy lasts to 17. Tristan Da Silva, Colorado, lasted to 18 to Orlando. He's a good player. You know what I mean? Like, and again, but the thing is, the fact is, teams are still in a draft like this when you shouldn't be trying to hit home runs. Teams are still, downgrading guys because of their age. The thing that Connect and Da Silva have in common is they're both 23 years old. And I do think that the mentality sometimes, in every draft is, hey, we're going to favor the analytics because the analytics tell us that the younger guys have more success. Well, it's kind of a confirmation bias there because in many cases, the younger guys can be the most talented guys. But just because you're going to draft the guys based on his age and put guys down based upon their age, I don't agree with it. And I think some of that, so when you get back to what your initial question was regarding college production, I think it may matter more now than really it has in a long time here, because I think there was a period of time that it didn't matter a ton, but I think in the massive core of the one-and-done era, but the one-and-done guys don't dominate college basketball anymore, and I think the NBA hasn't quite adjusted to that yet.
So Cody Williams is a one-and-done guy. He did have an injury during the year. He missed 13 games. At times, his production was really good, and I suppose if there had been more of those times, he wouldn't have lasted till 10. What do you make of him? How much do you care that his older brother, the arrow's up with him in Oklahoma City? What do you think?
I like Cody Williams a lot, and he can shoot threes. 55% shooter. Okay, he's got a long wingspan. He'll be able to guard. And I think sometimes, we can't always look at a player's brother, i.e. the Porters, right, and say, hey, this guy's going to have the same work ethic and be the same kind of guy because his brother is. But I also feel like in this case, all the measurables are there for him to be a really good 3D wing. And I like what the Jazz did here because just like I had, stated earlier about teams trying to hit home runs when maybe only singles or doubles are there, this is a singles-doubles guy. This is a guy that you kind of have a pretty good idea what you're getting, and what you're getting is someone that's athletic enough to guard the perimeter, and he's a good shooter. And at 6'7", and his length and his 7'1" wingspan, he'll be a pretty good defensive player. Like, we look for 3D prospects a lot. Two of the best 3D prospects we've seen in the last 10 years just got together and won an NBA title, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? Look what the Knicks just did, making sure they're paying OG Anunoby the highest contract in franchise history and trading an unbelievable amount of valuable draft capital to the Nets for Bridges. Why? Because they want the long wings. This is a good shooting long wing with the kind of wingspan that can guard people. So, again, I don't put tons of stock in the fact that his brother has had a successful short NBA career here, and it certainly looks like a star for years to come. But if he has any of that in him, all the measurables are there. This was a really good pick for the Jazz, in my opinion.
In his postseason media availability, Ainge, who doesn't talk much, he prefers Zanik to do it. He said, they're going to go big game hunting. The idea is to obviously get back into the thick of things into the playoffs and see what they can do. And I'm wondering, that big game hunting, is that actually possibly available, or is more like what they did with the Hayward group, internal development, get them better, and then go add some older veterans? They added Joe Johnson, and Diaw and George Hill, and that helped them get into the playoff race, and they won a playoff game, and then or a series, I should say, and then Hayward took off. But go that route as opposed to actually big game hunting. It sounds good. It's enticing, but I'm wondering if he could pull it off.
Listen, for you to go big game hunting, there's got to be big game out there. And, I don't know that, and really, who's out there as far as big game hunting is concerned? Jimmy Butler, they just took it off the table yesterday. And not to say the Heat still wouldn't trade him, but with Butler not demanding any kind of extension, and the Heat, from all accounts, having shown very little interest and no interest in trading him, I can't imagine he's going to be out there. I think that's kind of done. We know that Paul George is out there. Does Paul George make sense for Utah? Does Utah make sense for Paul George? Neither really do. Here's my point. Danny's version of big game hunting may be to collect as many picks as you can and see if they can get a Cooper Flagg or a Dylan Harper next year or the following year, get the Boozer kid. That may be his version of big game hunting. And because I do think it's more likely than not that Larry Markin in the next week gets moved to another team. There's just been too much buzz out there for too long. And at this stage, he can bring back some significant draft capital that can just give Danny more bites at the apple. And I kind of think with what Danny's building here, I thought, by and large, and listen, I do think the answer I gave on Collier is you can point to some of the shortcomings in USC and say maybe is a little bit of an indictment of Collier. At 29, he's a good pick. That's good value for that kind of athletic talent. And the Jazz have proven here over the years, and this predates Danny Ainge, to do a really nice job in player development. So I kind of look at this whole thing for the Jazz, and I do think that fans probably have to prep themselves for another step or two back before they start to make steps forward. Danny understands that your team in this stage of the rebuild doesn't exist in a vacuum. You can decide that we want to be better now and we want to win more games and we want our fans to have more to invest in. And then you can look at the Western Conference and realistically say, well, who can we get that's going to make us good enough to make it into the play-in? And if that player is not out there and available, it's incumbent upon you to kind of go the other way and make sure that you put yourself in a position where you can load the boat with really, really good young players and kind of do this thing how OKC did. And I kind of think that's the model here going forward. So I would be shocked if, a big game hunting type of player comes to the Jazz, and less shocked if they make a trade to load up on more draft capital, understanding this may be another lean year, but we're going to get more time for our young guys and try to build this thing out through the draft with as many bites at the apple as possible.
We're joined right now by Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host and NBA TV contributor. While we've been talking, we, of course, like everybody else, we have questions up and comments up on social media. And we've got Jazz fans, what they think of the draft picks and all that. And this guy goes a little down the road you are, so I'm curious your reaction to his thoughts here. Wes says, I love the Jazz draft picks, but it's all about going in the pooper for a chance at Cooper.
Listen, it's a very clever, it's a very, very clever slogan. And I think it's just what I said, there's a lot to that. And part of the thing that I'll say here with trading Markkanen is twofold. Number one, it's about getting as much future draft capital and value in young players that you can. The second part is Larry's a really good player, okay? And he puts you in a spot where you're going to probably win more games than you want to. I hate to say it. And listen, the lottery odds have been flat, and it's worked out really well. But for a draft class like this, you're going to see a lot of teams being intentionally bad. And I think the Nets are going down that road. I think the Wizards are clearly down that road. The Pistons made kind of a weird pick in Ron Holland. I mean, the Pistons didn't need another non-shooter. They're loaded with them, and they got another non-shooter. Well, that tells me that they believe Holland to be a major development project that they can develop over time, and they're okay to be really bad again this year. And again, to see if they can get to the top of the draft. I mean, they were the worst team in the NBA this year, and they ended up with the 5 pick. So, they want a shot to be able to penetrate that top 2 or top 3 next year, because the top 3 guys next year that everybody's looking at, Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, are all better than any guy who's in this draft. And I think everybody kind of realizes that. So it isn't even just about Flagg. It's about finding a way into the top 3. The Pistons certainly are intending on doing that. But if I'm the Jazz, that's the group that you end up getting with, because the mountain to climb in the Western Conference, Memphis is going to be back. Okay, they weren't in the play-in last year. Houston they weren't in the play-in last year. They're going to be a lot better. Who do you really see falling out of the play-in that's there right now? I don't know that you really can see anybody falling out of the play-in. It's hyper-competitive, and I just think for the Jazz, it's an insurmountable task. Go the other way and be able to kind of build out for the future a little bit and get your organization better, get as much young talent on board as you can.
Who goes after Markkanen, do you think?
Listen, it's tough to say. Maybe no one. Maybe I know there's a lot of talk about moving Sexton, a lot of talk about that, and I do think that's necessary. And first of all, Colin Sexton has played very well for the Jazz. He had a good year last year. So now is the time to move him. He's also the kind of guy, especially when it comes to having young guards on board, like Keontae George, like Isaiah Collier. Like he takes all the air out of the room a little bit. Clarkson does some of the same stuff, and he has some value out there too. So I think you're likely to see one of them go. I think Sexton's the more likely one to go. But I think though you kind of can earmark those two as guys that are likely to be shipped out, because again, whoever you're going to ship out, you just got to make sure there's some value there too, that you're getting value with doing that. How much value is Sexton going to provide? I don't know. We have to see. How much value is Clarkson going to provide? Probably a little bit more, but I believe it's the last year of his deal we're coming into. So I don't know. There's not a ton there with Jordan Clarkson that I think is more of a rental than anything else. But I don't know that those guys help you win the amount of games Markkanen does. So I think they'll be measured there in terms of making sure that when and if they do move them, they'll get some value to be able to do that. And that's the important thing. But I would kind of look at those two players. There's a lot of buzz about the Jazz being very active and seeing what they can get for Colin Sexton.
Sexton signed for 2 years at $18 and $19 million, and Jordan Clarkson signed for 2 years at $14 million each year. So
he's got 2 more years, Clarkson.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that gives him a little more value out there. Listen, Clarkson is for a contending team, he's an ideal bench guard. Because if he's hot, you're going to hand him the ball and just tell everybody to get out of the friggin' way. And if he's not hot, you're going to sit him. That's how it works with him. He's an irrational confidence guy. And with those guys at times can win you playoff games. They can also lose them for you. But if you kind of can sense if they're running hot or not running hot and know when to come sit them down, they can have a lot of value. And Clarkson's contract is not onerous, especially listen, all contracts are a liability at certain points in time because of the second apron. But Clarkson's contract on a contender, especially with the cap going up, not bad.
Brian, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again.
I look forward to it, guys. Take care.
Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host and NBA TV contributor. Connor Morrissette covers USC basketball for 24/7 Sports. We will talk with Connor coming up at 9:05. And find out more about Isaiah Collier, the 29th pick in the draft. Tad Boyle, Colorado Buffaloes basketball coach, joins us at 9:40 to talk about Cody Williams right here on The Zone. Win Tickets Wednesday. Always a chance to win. Too many tickets on this station to be confined to Wednesday. So we got an RSL Ticket Thursday. Pair of tickets to see RSL in Atlanta on Saturday, July 6th. You can win right now. Be caller 12 at 801-575-ZONE, and someone's going to the game. 801-575-ZONE, RSL in Atlanta, Saturday, July 6th. Well, the rivalry and all things, PK. We have been talking NBA draft all morning, and the Utah Pig Buzz says, according to Big 12 fans, the Pac-12 sucked at basketball, so these are terrible draft picks. As a U fan, I believe these are fantastic picks. By the way, BYU sucks, go Utes. There it is. The rivalry and all things.
I agree with that. These two don't represent the Pac-12. They represent themselves. And the Pac-12 is over now. It's old news.
The network. I just saw a thing on social media. The network signs off June 30th. Mm-hmm. Was anybody watching it still? What do they have on?
I see it at the gym because they got like 10 TVs.
They got 10 TVs that are rerunning
whatever.
Football, basketball, whatever. Yeah.
Stuff from the spring. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. I don't take any pleasure in that. But you can't argue that the Big 12 is a better basketball league. That's ridiculous.
But any one player can come from any one place. They represent themselves, not a whole team or a league or a nation in the case of foreign guys. You can play or you can't. And
a continent.
Okay, we can go with the continent. Manu Ginobili for South America. Joe Ingles for Australia.
These players were worthy to get picked where they were picked because of their ability. And the Big 12 actually, I think, can help Utah. The Pac-12 certainly didn't help Utah.
Might as well try something else.
We're talking basketball now.
We knew what you meant, yeah. Pac-12 helped football a lot, and football flourished.
Right.
But basketball,
And I think it can help.
Right.
But Big 12 can help.
But basketball was already going wrong the last 5 years in the Mountain West Conference, so maybe it's just more on Utah to be better regardless of where.
Which is what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although BYU did get a boost going from the West Coast Conference to the Big 12.
But
the
that's
bar gets
massive.
raised. The bar gets raised, but you get a boost at the same time.
Yeah, that's a massive jump.
Right.
So we'll see. This whole thing with the Jazz, though, can we stomach another year of crap? If they go, they got to go.
Yes. And
don't half buttock it.
Nice. Well played. That could be a slogan for this year. Don't half buttock it.
Yeah.
I totally get your point. I mean, we've been talking a little bit on the air and a lot off the air about moving Clarkson, moving Collins, and moving Sexton and moving Markkanen, which is the last two are what Geltzeiler just brought up, and just those guys, are they going to be of the right age by the time they get this thing built up? Because if they're not, move them for whenever you can get the most.
And tell Will to take some time off. Go here.
PK's, you like popping your jersey like a guy who's just scored a touchdown or something, or just threw down a big dunk.
Yeah.
Bahamas, established 1973 is what PK's T-shirt says this morning.
Yeah.
Send Will to the Bahamas, take a year off, quit winning games you're not supposed to win.
Just, like Majerus, every few years he needed a year off.
Wow. That was, what a year that was. I still remember Chris Hill sliding up to me.
Multiple years.
What do you think? I said, I think this is my third press conference. My knee, my heart, my mom. If you don't want to coach, don't coach. I'm tired of coming up here for these. It's 3 times in 7 weeks. I've had enough. Chris is just looking at me nodding going, yeah, I think we all have. Okay, fine. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up next, Connor Morrissette covers USC basketball for 24/7 Sports. Isaiah Collier, number 29 pick. What do the Jazz have? We will get to that next. Stay with us.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contest, and then listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
DJ and PK, it's time to welcome in Connor Morrissette, covering USC basketball for 24/7 Sports. Connor, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Isaiah Collier to the Utah Jazz. Your first reaction was?
I was disappointed to see him fall a little bit, but I understand it when so much is made about shooting and wanting to draft wings, so I understand it. But to me, I grew up in Massachusetts, very happy with what Danny Ainge did when he was the general manager of the Celtics. This, to me, looked like a classic Danny Ainge pick, taking a shot on a guy who fell a little bit, who has a lot of raw ability. You're just going to take a shot on the talent with Isaiah Collier. And if I'm a Utah fan, it's the number 29 pick in the draft. No guarantees, of course, but I'd be excited about it. This guy has a lot of talent. He was the number 1 recruit in high school the previous cycle. A lot of people thought a year ago that he might be the number 1 overall pick. I think there's a lot to like.
What would be some of the knocks on him that would lead to the fact that he did fall as low as he did?
The shooting. So the three-point shooting was okay. He was just under 34%, but ideally you want to see a better outcome at the free throw line from a guard, and he was 67% from the free throw line. Usually that can tell people, okay, if the three-point shot is okay, but you want it to get better, you look at the free throws, and they just weren't quite as good as some people had hoped. So I think you start there. And then I think with him, a lot of the jump shooting, it was okay. He's so good at getting to the rim. He's a great playmaker. He is very, very strong, so there's a lot to like with that. But the shooting is probably the biggest knock, and then defensively he made some mistakes at USC. But I think because he's so strong, he can develop that part of his game. But I do think some people, especially inside USC, thought maybe when he got to campus he would be a little bit better on defense, and they really had to work with him on that.
With young players, the situation they're in can matter a lot. And with Enfield leaving, was he dialed in the whole time? Was the staff looking for jobs part of the time? Was it a great atmosphere? I mean, did a young player have the best chance to get better?
So I think Isaiah Collier was locked in the whole time. He did break his hand halfway through conference play and missed 6 games, but he worked really hard to get back. A guy in his situation, he could have shut it down and just said, I'm going to focus on the NBA draft. But he chose to come back and play really hard. And his best game as a Trojan, in my opinion, was after his injury. USC went up to Washington. They won 82-75. Isaiah Collier scored 31 points, and he just took over at the end of that game. If you're a Jazz fan, I definitely watch those highlights. Try to get that second half on YouTube if you can, because he was exceptional in that one. So I feel like off the court, he's always been really locked in. And, yeah, Andy Enfield at the end of the season, I think the SMU stuff popped up. But during the year, I don't really think that staff was looking for other jobs too much. So I think Collier was locked in the whole way. No off the field or off the court issues with him. Really, really good kid. And nothing like that comes to mind with me.
The stats that came out as far as his height list him at 6'3", but if you go to USCTrojans.com, it lists it at 6'5". What do you think?
Yeah, I think they exaggerate their heights and weights a little bit, so I think 6'3" is more accurate, and we talk about why he fell a little bit. That has to do with it, too, because if he actually was 6'5", then there's a chance maybe he could guard a wing in a certain situation, but at 6'3", that's just a lot more challenging, and you can see those guys shoot over him, so I'm sure that has to do with it, too. We talk so much about Bronny James at USC. His height was inflated, too, so that's just something they do over there.
Some guys play bigger than their size. Does he?
I'd say on offense he does, because he's so strong. And at 6'3", he was lifting more weights than the bigger players on the team. He was clearly in the weight room the strongest player on the team, and we heard that consistently throughout his 1 year at USC. So he can play that bully ball, even though he's a little bit undersized. But defensively, it's one thing to be strong, but if guys can shoot over you, I think that's sort of an issue. So it shows up on offense. I wouldn't say it really shows up on defense too much, but you're going to be impressed with Isaiah Collier with the ball in his hands. I think he'll have a real opportunity. I don't know if it's this year, but I believe he's going to be an NBA caliber point guard. So we'll see what happens, but I'm high on him, that's for sure.
Listening to Justin Zanik talk about that shooting, and the numbers bear it out, and you were there and you've seen him, so you can speak to it. He did say that mechanically the shot looked fine. What's your response to that?
I'd agree, and I think the three-point shooting was maybe even a little bit better than I thought at times. It got better as the year went on. Early in the season, he was sort of up and down, and then he got a lot better as the season progressed, so I think that's encouraging too.
I can look at the numbers for the assists. Some people are really creative with the bully ball you describe, where a lot of his assists drive into traffic, get everyone to collapse, and find someone wide open. How would you grade him as a passer?
Really, really good passer. He would throw passes that the USC big men just weren't ready for, and so they would have these turnovers where if it was a better big, it would have been an easy assist. Very, very crafty passer, throws those passes with a lot of heat. I think that's one thing where we'll see his game go to the next level in the NBA. Guys are going to be ready to catch some of the balls that the USC bigs weren't. And that was a point of frustration for him, I think, a little bit, because in high school he had a really solid team, and I think the chemistry was maybe a little bit better than it was on that USC roster. USC had so many injuries last season that a lot of guys couldn't practice, and it just looked like they didn't play a lot together during the year. That's why they didn't have such a good season. But with him, his passing is fantastic, and that's definitely one of the better parts of his game for sure.
How was he as a teammate?
Great teammate. Never heard a single complaint about him. Coaching staff loved him. The other players loved him. He got close with Caleb Williams, the USC football quarterback who's now on the Chicago Bears. Really, really good guy. Soft-spoken. He's not someone who's going to come in and be that leader. He's more of a lead by example kind of guy. I'm sure he could potentially become a leader as time goes on, but never heard a single complaint from him.
Listening to you talk about him and knowing that he's the 29th pick in the draft, given some of the deficiencies, if he's able to carve out a career as a backup point guard, is that the best people should expect, or is there more possibility there?
I think there's maybe more possibility there. Look at Danny Ainge's history drafting guards at the end of the first round. Again, I go back to what he did in Boston. He took Aaron Nesmith, who it took him a while, especially with the Celtics, to get on the court. Never really happened for him. And then now he's over with Indiana, and he's playing a big role. Ainge also drafted Peyton Pritchard, which I think was a second rounder, maybe late first, and he's developed into a good backup player for Boston, but he's someone who, if he were to switch teams, he could be a starter on a lower-level team in the league. So I think with Isaiah Collier, backup point guard, that is a possibility. I could see him potentially working his way into being a starting point guard for sure, but I don't want to guarantee anything, of course. It's kind of a crapshoot, as we all know. So I think the ceiling is a little bit higher than some other people do. it just all goes back to the shooting. If he can hit that three-point shot consistently, that just opens so many doors for guards, and that to me is sort of the X factor with him.
Well, we appreciate a little scouting report, Connor. Thanks for joining us and spelling out what you expect for Isaiah Collier. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Connor Morrissette covers USC basketball for 24/7 Sports. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Tad Boyle, Colorado Buffalo men's basketball coach, is coming up at 9:40. We'll talk with him about Cody Williams. Stay with us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, we're brought to you in part by Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown. Find your new Mazda at the south end of the valley at Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown. That's Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown in Sandy. A lot of draft talk today. You can get the interviews wherever you get your podcasts. And Brian Geltzeiler brought up something that we've thought about, PK, but we haven't talked about. We don't want to speak it into existence, and yet it does make sense. Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host and NBA TV contributor, joining us and bringing up the possibility / likelihood of trading Lauri Markkanen. 24 wins. Hello.
Well, in the standings, we will sag for Cooper Flag.
Is that better than into the pooper for Cooper?
Yeah, I like crapper better than pooper anyway. They have a chance, if they were to play this right, to get the ultra big flag.
And to the point, with the odds flattened and all that, Geltzeiler pointed out the top 3 guys all have a chance to be big-time impact guys. So, all right, now you got a 42% chance of getting a difference maker. He was talking about this draft is about singles and doubles, and he did like Cody Williams as a single or a double. But the transformative talents at the top of the next draft.
Transformative, huh?
Yes.
Not transformational?
No, we could go with that too, sure.
USA Today gives the Jazz a B- on Cody Williams, but a B on Isaiah Collier. Grade B-, size of concern, but he could develop into one of the better wings in the Jazz roster.
Yahoo gave Cody Williams an A and Isaiah Collier an A-, so they're all over the place.
PK would like you to look for grade inflation. I would too.
Oh,
check it out.
As a student, I needed it.
We'll go back in 5 years and see how many.
Well, yeah, but did they give like 25 picks B+ or better?
There were a bunch that were.
Or were they stingy?
The only one that I said, the lowest I saw from Yahoo, and it's Kristen Peak, she's been on the station multiple times, Zach Baked Edie.
She hated Baked.
Got a D for Memphis. That was the lowest grade she had.
Yahoo gave him a C. They also gave Oklahoma City a D for Dylan Jones. And because he's older, I think, so what?
Yeah, if that's the case, Dalton Connect's going to suck with the Los Angeles Lakers.
I mean, compared to 19, you're older. But it's like you're looked at more advantageously if you're 19 and somehow at 23. So that would mean if we were to do this in 78 or 79, the Celtics would have got a D because they drafted this old Larry Bird.
Yes.
And Portland would have got a C because they drafted a 4-year guy in Bill Walton.
They're going with the okay, different era, but they're going under the theory that all the guys with the best talent are bailing out after 1 year, 2 at the latest, at 19 or 20.
They're forced to bail out because if you stay, you become damaged.
And so?
Okay, we went back a long time. Tim Duncan, that's not that long ago.
Now you're only going back one generation, not 2.
So what's the difference? Nothing. Keith Van Horn. They went 1-2. The last time in the history of the NBA draft we'll have seniors go first and second.
Now we have Frenchmen go first and
second.
second.
The following year, Andre Miller. And he played almost 20 years in the NBA. Also. I mean, come on. I get nuts on this. What is the guy's talent? What can he do? What is his work ethic?
Does he have the one skill set you need to put him in the rotation? And then if you got more than that, then you get more minutes.
And so if you're
you
23, forget it. I mean, I'm not talking like 42 Cam Rising here.
How about 27-year-old Joe Ingles, who was undrafted but
there you go.
Played for a decade?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said, the fact that he was a pro. for a good long time.
But I think it comes down to that could be used against you. The fact, like,
it seems like it always is,
because it's you're older. You've already gone through this stage where we know you're improving. You can't get any better. You are who you are.
Why did Connect drop to 17?
Old guy.
All of 23. He can't even rent a car.
Yeah. But he's been underestimated all the way, and you love that in players because you figure a chip on the shoulder, now they work harder. And he was a JC guy, which is super unusual for a draft pick to play JC basketball these days. That's really old school.
The one thing I think works in favor of the Jazz that I like is I've always believed that the recruiting star system is most accurate in basketball.
They play more games than the elite guys play against each other, and they don't have positions that aren't really playing the game in some of these situations. A quarterback isn't really playing football in 7-on-7. They're not getting hit. They're not really playing football in practice because they aren't getting hit.
And the way to get better in football is at 6 in the morning. Basketball, you play. Football, it's no one's watching you. It's all grunt work. And do you have the heart for it? And levels of competition, especially now when high schools basically have super teams, and you run everything the coach draws up works to perfection because you're just better than everybody.
Yeah, you're so thoroughly.
Yeah. And football isn't like that. It's
Right.
it's a fire drill. And what do you do when everything breaks down?
Right, but everything doesn't break down for Corner Canyon very often. So how do you read
drop
that?
back, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, you're open. I throw you the ball. I got 3 guys, 340 pounds in front of me.
The number of games that they have 30 points at halftime.
Yeah.
It's like you can look at their schedule and think, in a regular season, there's maybe 2 or 3 games where they might be tested for a while. And probably only one
out of state game.
An out-of-state game.
Yeah,
and then you look around to see is Sky Ridge, Lehigh, Lone Peak on the schedule.
Right.
And the rest of the teams, even decent teams, they're going to be in state quarters. They just roll.
And so it's harder to tell where I think it's legitimate, which I think bodes well for the Jazz with Collier because he did have that high ranking. And if you look back, I saw somebody put out last night that Williams and Collier were both ranked in the top 5.
Yeah, they were.
What does that mean?
That they had talent and they showed well against players their age when they were 16, 17 years old.
But I think for me, what it meant was they were college. I didn't necessarily mean pro. So if you had we've seen a number of high stars, particularly at quarterback, and BYU has been right there with 3 or 4 of them, and it never translated into college success.
Man, and that goes back to your point that some of them were coming off loaded super teams.
And I think in high school, it does transfer to college success more often. Whether that transfers to pro success, I don't know about that. Especially when now, like Agor, what star system does he have? He didn't play ball here.
He's off the charts, right? Yeah.
So he's not even included. So you got all these foreign dudes that are coming in, and they don't have a star system. They didn't play high school ball. They played academy ball.
I think you set the star system apart, but I think the point you're going to is that the ranking is because you see the elite guys play each other head-to-head in a way you just don't get in football. You don't see a 5-star D lineman try to get to the quarterback by beating a 5-star offensive lineman. So it's hard to really evaluate that. But in basketball, you see the elite players go against each other.
You do, but it's not really a form of basketball.
It's different.
Pickup.
It's and you see these international tournaments and how much is the teams play together. The game isn't going to be as crisp as the pro game. So there's something lost. The spacing's not going to be as spot on. The ball isn't going to move as quickly. And nonetheless, though, you do see who's got the edge, who's got the chip on their shoulder, sometimes you see someone like, Luka Doncic is 14-year-old and he's just destroying 17-year-olds, and it's clear to everybody, we got to watch this guy. He's awesome. So I do think it gives you a little bit of that. But I don't think that watching a U18 European Championship, it's not the NBA game. The rules are a little different. It's going to be refereed differently. And how long do they get to practice together?
You look at Toronto. I'm reading this draft grades. Jacoby Walter out of Baylor, B+. He goes to 19 to Toronto. And Cleveland, Jalen Tyson out of California, C-. I'm telling you, the reason why it's a C- is because he stayed, and the other guy was a one and done. Walter, I saw him in the beginning of the year. He didn't get a whole lot better, but he's only 19. You got to come out as soon as you can before they just start discovering all your zits.
There's something to that. Look at people longer and see what they can't do.
Yeah.
So have you gone back? Are the morning after draft grades any better than the mock drafts and the actual draft picks themselves?
No, that's too much.
I mean, how do you really know
the mock
right
draft
now?
doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
And the grade doesn't matter.
There it is. How much better is a player in 3 years matters a lot.
That's what, yeah, you got your guys. Those are your guys. Now you go forward. And really, who's to say that the Jazz keep these guys? We're making a big deal about them. I wanted to bring that up last night, but when I was on their air, but it just didn't work. But you just look at Agbaji and Kessler. Oh, what difference did their draft trade matter? They were traded.
Yeah, they went into a trade.
Yeah.
And away they went.
Right.
And honestly, with 6 picks in 2 years, if 2 of these 6 guys end up being rotation players on a team that's in a conference final in 5 years, it was a great draft. And the other guys wash out. So, I mean, they got so many draft picks, they can't all stick. They're either going to wash out or they're going to get traded. They're just not going to have 15 of these guys after the 15th. What's the math on 15 picks over 5 years-ish? Not quite. It may take 6 because they don't have 3 every year. But a bunch of these guys are going to wash out or get traded.
Yeah.
So take a flyer on Collier. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, I mean, there's a little more riding on the 10 picks, and you'd figure those are the guys who are more likely to stick. But maybe they get traded, and who comes back for them is what ends up mattering. But all we got today is... here they are as draft picks. Tad Boyle, Coach Cody Williams. He's going to join us next. Colorado basketball coach on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ PK, we're joined now by the head coach of the Colorado Buffalo men's basketball team, Tad Boyle. He had a lot of NBA guys on his team, and one of them now plays for the Utah Jazz, thanks to the 10th pick in the draft. Coach, good morning.
Hey, good to be with you guys. Good to be with you.
Were you surprised when Cody went to the Jazz, or I assume you get phone calls on all your guys, so maybe you have a pretty good idea what's about to happen?
Not really. Last night's draft, just was a little unpredictable, and so I had a feeling he would go top 10, and of course he went 10th to the Jazz. So yeah, it was interesting. I think all throughout all the picks, all 30 picks, there were some surprises, and but I was not surprised he went to the Jazz. I've obviously talked, and our staff has talked to their organization about Cody. We've talked about all our guys, and these NBA teams do a lot of due diligence, so they got a good one.
What are the Jazz getting then, Coach?
Well, they're getting a great athlete that is got unbelievable upside. I mean, to me, Cody. I said this during the season, I'll say it now, like he's as close to a can't-miss prospect as you're going to get because, he comes from a great family. Off the floor, there are, no issues. He's really serious about becoming a great pro. And, guys, he's only 19 years old. His upside and his future is to me, it's unquestionable because he's got a great work ethic. He loves the game. He's coachable. There's no negatives other than the fact that he's young, and physically, there's going to be some adjustment to the NBA game from the college game, just like the adjustment from the high school game to the college game. So, but Cody's a smart player and he'll adjust.
We have a Colorado fan who's also living here in Utah listening to us saying that he's a Buffs fan, and there are some fans here are worried about his scoring and why didn't he have a bigger role, why isn't he more dominant, and this Buffs fan says, well, he had NBA players, he had seniors and Lampkin in the pecking order, he missed some games, he accepted his role, was in the background more than people expected, but he's crazy talented, a great pick with incredible upside. My guess is you're going to second most of that. And can you talk a little bit about how many shots he got and how many shots he took and why and how the team was built and how that might have shaped what we saw versus what you know what he can do?
I think that that fan is spot on. I mean, Cody came into a team that had 4 seniors and 2 juniors that were, established players. But he came in and he fit in, as a teammate seamlessly. Because, again, the kind of a person he is, the kind of family he came from, he's a team-oriented guy. He's not a selfish player. He's not all about himself. He's gonna do whatever he's asked to do in terms of his role. The second thing is he did have a very difficult and challenging year due to some minor injuries, nothing major, but he went in for a dunk against Pepperdine and took a hard fall and had a small hairline fracture in his wrist, so he was out for 4 or 5 games there. And then he got elbowed in the eye in practice, had to be fitted for a mask. I think he missed the Utah game, if I remember right.
Yeah, he did.
And then came back and then twisted his ankle against Arizona State and missed 4 or 5 games there. So he missed 14 games, and again, not because he's not durable. It just was one of those freak injuries that caused him to kind of start and stop. And for a freshman to miss that many games and to miss that many practices is really a big thing. So the fact that Cody had the year he had, given those injuries and given the team he came into, to me speaks volumes to again, the kind of player he is and the player he's going to be. Because when he got in a rhythm, when he got in a flow, he was a major part of our team.
I think in order to achieve whatever level of talent you have, and some would be a superstar and a good role player, whatever it might be, bench player, you have to really embrace the grind. And, Coach, what I mean by the grind is not just getting shots up in the gym. It is in the weight room. It is the dieting. It is the film work. And you know that well much better than I would. But it's all that stuff. And how would you answer his desire and willingness and love to embrace what I call the grind?
He does so impeccably. I mean, he cares about the game. He's very conscientious. I mentioned before he's coachable, so he's going to do whatever's asked of him to do. But Cody's got a sense about him. He's got a feel for the game that you can't coach, that you can't teach, and that's the one thing we look for. When we recruit players, and we saw it from Cody the first time. We saw him and talked to him about the game. Is he's got a great feel, and he does embrace hard work. Our strength coach. He's one of the reasons he came to Colorado is our strength coach does a great job for our guys. And again, he was only on campus for 7 or 8 months, so we didn't get a lot of time with him in there. But the time that he spent, he's a hard worker. And again, he's just going to get better and better and better. I think the big thing for Jazz fans is you just have to understand he is 19. There's going to be an adjustment period, but when he figures it out, which he will do, you got a great player, not a good player.
Everybody does a lot of homework on the person because you're trying to figure out, the work ethic and the maturity level. We've heard how mature he is. I think you got some sense of that just in the 8-minute press conference he did after he got drafted. And we know his brother's in the league, but I'm sure you got to know the family through the recruiting process. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and what he's got and why he's got it and getting a sense of that when you got to know his family?
Great family. Mom and dad have a military background, so obviously the service means a lot to them. They're hardworking people. Obviously, his brother Jalen is somebody Cody's always looked up to his whole life, and I'm not sure Cody would be where he is today without Jalen, because he's kind of set the tone for him, and he's really when you look at where Cody can be 3 or 4 years from now, just look at Jalen Williams with the Oklahoma City Thunder, because there's your stock, right? There's your blueprint, and Cody listens to Jalen. He follows him. They help each other out, and again, when Cody starts to get physically mature and go from that young man to man, he'll be knocking heads with Jalen, I'm sure, nightly when they play. But that's the stock is there, and the family dynamic is something that is that we look at in recruiting, and it's his parents have done a great job raising those two boys and his older sister as well.
This might be more of a college recruiting question, Coach, but you knew as you were recruiting him that there was probably a good chance he would be one and done, and yet you still have to take the best players, and he obviously was one that you wanted and probably everybody wanted. But as a coach running a program, what are the challenges of recruiting players that you know going into it is a good chance that they are one and done?
Well, it was my first time experiencing it, guys. We've never had a one and done guy at Colorado. When I got the job, we had Alec Burks, who spent some time, and in fact was drafted by the Jazz as well. Turned into a great pro. We had Alec for 2 years, even though I coached him for one, but he was in college for 2. So I've never had a one and done. Our staff hadn't. To me, we just take the approach that you want to try to get better every single day, and that's the one thing we tried to stress with Cody is let's not worry about all the outside noise. He did a great job of kind of staying focused throughout the year and not listening to mock drafts and what's going to be happening 3 or 4 months down the road. It's get better today. Get up and get better today, whether that's getting to the gym, whether that's getting your weight workout in, whether that's making sure you're eating 8,000 calories that day, whatever the case may be. Get better every day, and Cody's really embraced that, and I think he will continue to do so.
How did he improve the most as a player? Where did you see progress?
Well, I think just his comfort level and the speed of the game. You go from high school basketball or AAU basketball to Pac-12 level or major college basketball. The speed of the game picks up. The strength. I think the biggest adjustment that Cody made was the handling the physicality of the game, because again he was 175 pounds, whatever, when he got here. I can't remember exactly but he needed to get stronger. I think time will make him bigger as he matures physically. But handling the physicality of the game is where he really made strides and adjustments, because his skill level is unquestioned. His athleticism, his length, his basketball IQ, all those things. And I think, he also became a better shooter throughout the year. And you look at his shooting numbers for a freshman, they're pretty, before he got injured, I think he was shooting 60% from the field. I mean, that's for a freshman in major college basketball. Right. That's huge. So, he's just going to get better and better and better, guys. That's all I can tell you. He's, as you see him in preseason games or summer league games versus games next February, March, you're going to see a different player.
Because he was the first one, and I thought he was, that you've had, and you've been at Colorado for a number of years as a one and done, he sort of had a little bit of you could say a bullseye, and then he's coming in to a team that has veteran leadership with guys, at least 2 of them, probably going to play in the NBA. So it was a little bit of an unusual situation. You go to some of these programs, like Calipari in Kentucky and maybe down in Arizona, they're used to the one and dones, and those guys come in and they might have another one and done with them, but he didn't have that. So it was really an unusual situation in that program. And I'm wondering how he handled it in terms of not being able to fit in, but yet still be able to show the type of personality that he has. And that extends beyond the court.
Absolutely, guys. And again, I go back to the kind of person that he is and his makeup. It's not all about Cody. It's not all about just him. It's about fitting into the team. And I promise you, he'll do the same thing in Utah, and I'm not an expert on the Utah Jazz, but whatever that locker room is like, whatever their dynamics and leadership is like, Cody's going to fit into that. He's not going to be, hey, I need to get this many shots. I need, this many touches. He's going to play the game the right way. And when he came to Colorado, it was a challenge for him because he is this McDonald's All-American. He does have a target on his back. I think our players, Tristan Da Silva, KJ Simpson specifically, did a great job of mentoring Cody, talking to him, helping him out, and that was helpful to him. But he came in with the attitude of, I'm going to try to fit in and be the best teammate I can be, and he did that, and that's why we had the kind of year we had. I just wish he didn't have to deal with those injuries, and he could have got into a little bit more of a flow, because if that would have happened, I mean, there's no question we could have been, Sweet 16, Elite 8, and if things fall right, maybe a Final Four this year. But
right.
It didn't happen, but it wasn't because anybody's fault. It was just sometimes the injuries you can't control.
Certainly, Jazz fans want, good people, no problems with the law, but also good teammates, not selfish guys, and that's all good. But Danny Ainge has been a quote that's been attributed to him, and I may be messing it up, but the team's got a lot of house cats that need some alley cats. You're laughing, right? Because you need guys who have an edge, and there's a line that can't be crossed in the locker room and off the court, but nonetheless, the edge is good. Have you seen that fire from him at some point?
Yeah, between the lines for sure. When he sees a chance to get downhill and get to the rim, he's going hard, and he's going to try to dunk on you and anybody that comes in his way. And he's got the length and athleticism to do that. So, absolutely, he's got that in him. I think it'll be interesting again as he physically develops. I keep going back to that because of his build. When he physically develops, you're going to see a guy who really, really can attack the rim and can get downhill and make things happen and be one of those alley cats. And I think what Danny's talking about too is you need guys defensively that are willing to dig in, and that's the one thing about Cody I think that goes unnoticed a little bit to the normal fan is he is not only just a capable defender, he's a willing defender. And when you put those things together with a guy with his body type, he's a really good shot blocker. He's got great length. He can contest shots. He's going to be really good on the defensive end as well.
Jazz took Collier late, 29 out of SC. Do you have any scouting report on him?
Yeah, I saw Isaiah play in his high school days. So he's a heck of a talent, big, strong guard. Again, a guy that can get downhill. He was a problem in the Pac-12 in terms of putting pressure on your defense and foul pressure on you. He's got a different set of things he's got to improve on, I think, as he becomes a pro. His jump shot probably is the number one thing. But outside of that, he's a heck of a player, and he was a problem for us, I can tell you that.
Well, Coach, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. Congratulations on all your NBA draft picks. And, Buff fans just want you to double down. Just do it again, do it again. We'll see you come through town on Big 12 trips now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Big 12. And I think the Jazz fans are going to love Cody and watching his development.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, see you guys.
Tad Boyle, Colorado Buffaloes men's basketball coach, Cody Williams coach. Find the edge. Find the jersey.
I'm
Find
excited
your
for
inner
this kid.
jersey.
I'm excited, man.
More than all the other draft picks we've seen the last 2 years, and whoever 32 is, who we don't know right now. Riding a little higher, just because you heard more about him early.
I'm excited about him right now. I mean, if he ends up contributing to the level of a Keontae George, I'll be even more excited. I'm just year one.
Mm.
That's probably a little bit too high of a bar. Thinking more of Taylor Hendricks, which would be good enough for me.
I thought Taylor Hendricks' arc over the course of the year was fine for the first year.
Absolutely.
Obviously, a lot more has to be done. But I didn't see any red flags there. I thought the progress was pretty good. Now, go from there and step it up again.
Yeah.
So if Cody does that, then that's a win.
I'm
curious
it's going
about
to be.
one thing, and this will be for our 9 o'clock listeners. You were talking earlier that, the stuff you've been saying recently, well, you'd heard. Right? You didn't just divine it yourself. You had an idea. You talked to people, and somebody told you something. But had someone told you something when you mentioned it back in October or November, or was that just you reading stuff and maybe watching some early college basketball?
It was the latter.
It was the latter.
High school from Phoenix to,
Yeah. And so then later on, you confirm that with somebody, hey, I'm not up in the night here, and it's going to be in the right ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what the Jazz season was going to be.
Nor did you know what the draft pick was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So, no, I remember literally you were sitting at the computer, and I told you to look it up.
I know. I remember.
Yeah.
So when you said that earlier, and I know you talk to people, you do a lot of stuff from the seat of your pants, but
that
not
was high school, college stuff, what to anticipate. That was more of what to anticipate in college basketball.
Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, we're all done. Jake and Ben are up with more on the draft next, and it continues at 2 o'clock. Scotty and Hans will update you on the Jazz pick at about, 2:05 or whatever it be when they make that pick. So stay with us all day right here on The Zone.